And work was a complete cluster today, so it all involved me. And like thing after thing.
Howdy, folks. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the professionalism that is the Shadow and Sun Show. Sorry about that, folks. As you can see by the title, it's the Appendix N book club meeting where we're going to talk about Jack Vance's The Dying Earth. You probably heard me say this before, but I only just read this for the first time just this last year. I've had this book in my collection for decades. I've got two copies of it actually. One's got like a ding in it that goes like 15 pages, 20 pages deep, like someone hit it with a nail or something. And I see Crafting is here, so I'm going to let him in. And I kick myself every time I think about it. I love this book so much, and being an old school D&D player, I wish I had read this like in seventh grade, but nope, didn't read it until I was in my late 50s, and I absolutely loved it. I especially after reading Elric of Melbourne, I needed something a little cheerier, even though this has got some dark moments. Now we're only going to talk about the first story, Turjan of Mir, I think it is.
Which, which I felt was pretty bright, honestly. I mean, yeah, it has its dark moments, but as a book, I'd say it's a lot brighter than the last book.
Yeah, wasn't it? It's just night and day.
And sorry, I'm not talking to you earlier, Shadow. I've been gone most of the day. In fact, I've been home about a half an hour.
No worries, dude. No worries. I got in some reading. I sent my first 2.5 pages over to Mac. And what's up, Law Dog?
Everybody's cooking.
Everybody's cooking. Look at this. Everybody's cooking.
I'm going to cook a zucchini dish later with rice.
We're having Woods' cheesy dogs with they're basically sausages, but they're not. There's a mix between a hot dog and a sausage where they're really meaty, but they have a lot of sausage flavor to it. They're really good.
Oh, nice.
Nice. I'm a big fan of cheddar wurst. And,
yeah.
Any smoked sausage, haven't seen you in a little while, Law Dog. Welcome to the show. Mac, thanks for playing along earlier. I had just, my story isn't due for another 5 weeks. Justin will remind me when he gets here. But I'm like, you know what? Let's knock this one out so I can go back to the other ones. And I'm actually having some fun with this one. But it's one of those things. It's not work at all, but it wasn't the one or the story I was intending to submit for the next reading challenge over on Justin's channel. It's Justin Thor LPS every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning at 9 a.m. avocado time. And Grandma.
Yes.
When are we going to see one of your stories?
Well, right now I've got essays I have to write to turn in that have nothing to do with role playing games. So
no worries.
Let me get those cleared away.
That's Bingo. Welcome to the show.
I got to check back with somebody concerning a monster manual if what I turned in is what they needed, or if I need to make corrections to monster descriptions.
Oh, awesome! I keep forgetting that I'm supposed to do something similar, not identical, but similar for the same thing, and I just keep getting carried away with writing my own stuff, and I feel bad about it. But I'll get something in there.
Well, it's probably for a different people than you're thinking of.
Oh, okay.
I was asked to convert some things, and I did, but I don't feel I made the flavor text, if you will, correct for the setting, and I've got to go back and edit that. And the system that they're using,
Mhm.
my device just isn't handling it all, so I've got to send some emails and say, look, I'm just gonna have to piecemeal email this. You guys are gonna have to put that in the database because they ain't working on my side.
Yeah.
But I gave them all the raw conversions and what I call first draft, but I'm not happy with the first drafts at all. Usually they get like way better stuff from me, so I'm gonna have to reread it and fix that. But yeah, I don't really write a whole lot of story writing. Um, I do stuff for role playing games that's been published. It's either settings or planets or monsters or conversions, and this is how you can convert this thing and then put it in this kind of setting.
Yeah. I found
That
that to
kind
be
of
not
stuff.
easy.
Oh, what, converting or
Well,
changing?
converting, well, a bit of both really, because I'm trying to come up with a little bit of a rule set that you can. I think Justin said miniature agnostic, where you can use any miniature you have for your game for my game, but trying to
Mm-hmm.
come up with things so you can like convert rules of like, oh, I love the way the beholder works in D&D. I want to throw that at my players in upon the skies. Is what I'm calling it, and trying to come up with rules that work and both allow you to create the creature and convert it if you want is not easy.
Oh, doing both. Yeah. Well, once you have the monster, that's the main thing. Once you have the monster and have a feel for what it's supposed to do, then making it appropriate for another setting and another mechanical system is like a whole nother step you go through. Um,
Yeah.
so the games involved. A lot of times I'm converting D20, older D20 to D100. And so I have a system I use, and it's changed over time,
What's up,
refined.
George?
And then once I have an idea about what the monster does, then I start asking, where does it fit in ecologically, and how different am I going to make the monster from the original? In other words, do I want it to be really, really close to the original, but fleshed out a little bit differently, different origin, that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Or does it need to change way different and look different and everything, but the monster does a similar effect? So those are kind of like the choices you make when you're
Yeah.
doing conversions. What's the
Yeah, that makes
effect you
sense.
want out of the monster first is probably the where to start, and the raw stats, if you will. And
Yeah.
then it's the flavor text. How's it fit? Um, an example would be Gamma World Synestede. I imported that over into Star Frontiers. All right.
Yeah.
Its origin is caused by an alien invasion, and it's one of their experimental critters that got loose and on the planet. It's just one of many. And
And now we circle back to the book we were reading.
yeah,
Vats of creatures.
yes, fascinating creatures, so it's actually a bit of a failed experiment, but it's wreaking havoc on the planet. So it's still working for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually how the story that we're supposed to read actually starts is with basically a failed experiment, a creature that
Yes.
really ugly and it will not eat. It's smart enough to know if it doesn't eat, it's going to die. It's also smart enough to know it's miserable, which is like that's where science and magic can be its scariest, is where the transition of you learning this shit. Well, I can make it smart enough to think. It's also smart enough to hate its own existence.
Right. And by hating itself, it hates others.
Hey,
Uh-huh.
Justin, welcome to the show. We don't get the black and white treatment, huh?
Yeah, The filters got shut off somehow, and I was too lazy to turn them back on.
Oh, okay.
Typical Justin. I was just too lazy to deal with it this time.
Stay hydrated, everybody.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh yes.
It's still like 110 here.
We haven't reached 100 yet, but we got close the other day.
Well, out here, the sun's
literally
like,
at
"Hi."
midnight. Literally at midnight, it's 90 degrees where I live, outside.
I don't doubt that.
Let's go bake in
I
our cars.
actually love it during the nighttime, it being that warm, but during the day, it's killing my yard. I've literally got to water my yard 3 times a day to keep it green, or it will turn into a fire hazard.
Yeah. You know, they make these things called irrigation systems.
I've got an automated sprinkler system, but
Yeah, that would qualify.
it's just I got to turn it on
I got
because
hoses.
yeah, I've got to use the hose on the potted plants, but
And I ain't
we've
been
got a lot of
watering.
fruit trees, and I don't want them to die, and roses and all that crap.
Yeah.
Only the strong survive in my yard.
Yeah.
That's pretty much around here
This is
too.
an experience.
So quickly around the clock, starting with Grandma. Did you like the book?
Yes, I didn't quite finish all the short stories in it.
That's
but,
okay.
Got through most of them. So, and I enjoyed them all. But I'm also have read some of the other Jack stuff, and I like his writing, and it's awesome.
I made it quite clear I was only doing the first story.
Well, I know that.
I even knowing that, I couldn't help myself, and I made it to the 3rd story. It's just.
I don't know where I am.
Did you like it, Justin?
Yes, I liked it. I did have to force myself to stop.
Okay, that's a
going
good sign.
forward, but I did that because I wanted to get some other stuff done. Also, we will never get to the second story.
You guys got to do. You guys got to do.
We will eventually do them all.
The Wayfarer, man.
We will eventually do them all. That's what this guy said. We're doing them all.
We'll circle back around and get to them all. I just the first one was so good. It's just there's something about it, right, guys? He's got a unique style.
Yes.
You should start keeping a list of the stories we did. Like open a document in Google and just list them off so we don't end up covering the same stories again.
Yeah, I like his style.
Yeah, we will do that because we will forget because sometime next year when we're only a 10th through the list.
No. TCG, what'd you think of it?
I really, really liked it. It is actually kind of emphasizes one of the things I personally believe when it comes to science and magic, which there's one. Science is a form of magic. Magic is a form of science. It's just the fact that science is real.
Okay.
Well, it's that. Was it Asimov quote?
Mm-hmm.
The 3rd law of. No, Clark's 3rd law.
Well, it depends on which law you're talking about. Any sufficient technological society is indistinguishable from magic. Absolutely. Yeah. I kind of.
And I think that's the case with this world.
Definitely something akin to that. As you guys know, I prefer to have my magic a little more based in mysticism and the divine. I look at actual sorcery as how God actually does things, and somewhere down the road, men through one way or another figured out how God does some of his stuff, and we're not supposed to be doing it, but we do it anyways, and then we get ourselves in trouble when we cast that lightning bolt down a 30-foot corridor and it comes bouncing back at us, kind of thing.
But if you didn't know any better, would you be able to tell the difference?
Right.
Especially when it's emulating things that are so similar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and these
Yeah.
short stories, I mean, they do have deities and demons and cults and all that stuff that pops up, and
Well,
you're left going, well,
You know,
well,
you
that's
know,
skipping
too
a little bit to the
maybe
third
just
book. Sorry.
you made me just think of something. Hey, James, what's happening? Um, I look at Vance'S Magic and the Dying Earth as if science had advanced so much on this planet that they had actually figured out how to break down the rules and laws of physics with their own minds and the
Yeah,
computations and
but
things
that
like
would be
right,
sufficiently advanced technology being
Right.
used in it.
right,
Especially since the civilization had digressed to the point where they didn't remember that
yes,
they had gotten to that point technologically.
yeah.
Yeah.
When mathematics becomes a mystery,
Yeah,
Yeah. One of the mythic
and
arts.
yeah, and DNA
yeah.
is
Be-
arcane.
be- because it's obvious that
Yeah.
the thing that they're talking about in the story is cloning vats
Yes,
yes,
and
Yeah.
genetic engineering. Like the main character is a Batman. Like if you pay attention, he's not human. He's like some uplifted bat creature.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I also like the fact that when you're reading um, so much of, besides the magic system,
Mhm.
um, you get, you know the dia dance are in the books,
Well, the magic system felt a little too gamified
clothes.
to me. Oh well, I can only memorize 3 spells. Like, isn't wait what?
Well, that's where D&D got that
Got it.
idea from. It's the other way
Oh
around,
really?
bro. It's
Yes,
the other way
Really?
around, bro.
yeah, it's
yes,
I didn't
yes,
know that.
absolutely. That
yeah.
is uh,
Vecna is Vance's D&D character.
I didn't know that. Vecna was Vance?
Yeah,
Really?
that's why if look, Vecna is spelled with Vance's last name.
I didn't know he played. I thought it was just inspired upon him.
It's, if I remember right, he played
Hmm.
for a little bit, and then they turned Vecna into a big scary thing. Seems to
That's
me.
awesome. That's
If
awesome.
I remember the things I've read, just random stuff over the years. But yeah, Vecna is Vance's last name. Yeah,
Yeah.
they did that a lot down at old TSR. They would scramble up their names to make their characters.
Right, right. The Ring of Gax, things like that, and some of the other wizards' names, like draw gems and things like that. Bacob and Bucknerd. Uh, Throwing yourself into your work, I suppose, is okay. Uh,
Yeah, but
That's
it
really
seems
no
to
worse
me
than what I did with my book.
I'd have to go
Uh,
double check. So I could be remembering something.
Yeah.
That I randomly read years ago. But yeah, there's a whole reason why Vecna. Yep, Vecna Vance. Yep. Um,
Yeah.
and
Uh,
that's why D&D has that system of
I,
magic.
I knew the character was named after him. I didn't know it was his. I've never
Yes.
heard that before.
Yeah, I think it's his character. He played a few times, and then they turned it into a bad guy later.
Possibly the most notorious bad guy in D&D lore, as far as I remember.
Mm.
So what did you guys think of the magic system itself? Because that is one of the main reasons this book is remembered so well.
I
Like,
honestly don't remember much from the first story, beyond them talking about creating the people and
Yeah,
the main
you
character
don't really
trying to
get
throw a lightning bolt.
you don't really get a taste of how powerful it is until I think the second book, when
The second story.
the main bad guy goes. I think it was prismatic orb, and just literally
it
rips
was
a
just
demon.
right.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
just rips it
right.
apart.
Jim Ward, draw Jim. Thanks, James.
Which
Yeah,
was like,
I was
holy shit! Even if being a high level spell, that is incredibly powerful to just rip apart
Yes.
a magical creature like that.
Yeah, didn't he say it was like he ripped them in 1,000 pieces or something like
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, something like that.
shredded.
Yeah, it's funny when you think about it. The spells in the Dying Earth are like phenomenally powerful right off the bat.
Oh yeah,
You know, you're
they're
talking about
saying magic's dying, the planet's dying, and yet the spells are like, holy shit.
right. They're
Well,
like,
is it that they're dying, or is it that nobody can remember them? Right, like the
well,
I think it's
world
more
is
along the
falling
lines of nobody
lost.
apart.
can remember.
They've lost a huge storehouse of the zeitgeist of magic. They're down to like 99 out of 100 spells that are known within the community, and there used to be hundreds or
And
thousands.
Yeah, they don't understand
they
how
emphasize more than once that there was
technology
at least
works.
1,000 spells at one point.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
I know the thousand spell thing, but
and the planet is dying because the sun's dying.
yeah.
Yeah, and so they don't have the ability or the knowledge to leave the planet apparently at this point.
Well, at least not the ones that live there.
Right.
Well, they
Well, that's not
technically
even
kind.
completely true because they're on a different planet. Um, at the beginning of the short story, it's the end
Well,
of
they're
it when they go to Earth
Right.
when he creates the second girl.
yeah,
Actually,
they're
he
in a
comes
different
from
like
Earth, and then he
yeah,
returns
yeah,
to Earth. Technically,
yeah,
Okay,
and then
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the girl
So
comes to Earth.
speaking of the dying, I found it appealing, I guess, that it wasn't like some huge, noble, named catastrophe. That it was more of a slow decline, uh, so as to not really disrupt everything. You know what I mean? The Earth was
yeah,
dying, but it wasn't filled with like radioactive slag
Right.
and ash and all this. It was just a slow, you know, decline, as it were, into the end, which it
yeah,
doesn't seem all that bad. You know what I mean? For dying, they've got you know trees and plants and plant tree animal things and all kinds of weird stuff, but it doesn't seem like a miserable place. It's just you know kind of like getting old.
yeah.
Just slow decline into the end, and for the most part, it's not dark or depressing. It's actually, for me, the whole. Let's just stick with the first story. It's still rather cheerful and uplifting, and there's
Well,
hope. There's reason to keep on going,
and
even
the
though
first story is all about creating life,
exactly
which is in itself um, a defiance to
the dying.
the dying. Yeah.
Well, the main character, what's his face?
Turjan, I think.
Tershan. He's trying to create a pure human, and is failing. And of course, his understanding of what a pure human is so twisted that when he thinks he succeeds, he creates a person with green hair.
You're right.
Oh, that was part
Yeah.
of the fact that he was captured by the most disgusting part of the first book. The king
The
with
first
a literally
story.
described as a child, a green-haired child,
Yeah.
and he was captured by the girl's green hair. So his first successful creation had green hair because he liked it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
So I can't say Justin's wrong. I'm just saying that was his reasons. But that doesn't mean Justin's wrong. That could mean his version of humanity is so twisted. Yeah, that's what a hair is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Their knowledge base. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the knowledge, and where I'm at, several short stories further down, it's clear that part of the problem was that they did where they became so advanced that they stopped learning, kind of like people today.
Yeah.
That's good.
Important information.
They stopped what, Grandma?
They
Learning.
stopped learning.
Oh,
The
oh, oh,
majority of
yeah,
the
absolutely.
population stopped learning,
Which
and
is
everything was done for them. Once those things broke down, then everything's going to start to collapse.
I'll let you in a secret. That's not actually a new thing.
No.
It's just more evident
But
because more of our society requires education.
You can run into these people today, where
James,
we
did
try
you
to-
read this, and would you like to pop on in? The link is in my link channel at the top of my Discord. You're just machine gun firing off comments. It's the same with anybody else. If you've read the book and you want to come in, we're missing a couple of our regulars. I think Oben is still away on a work assignment, and uh, Dark Knight has an early day tomorrow, so he couldn't make it either. I also really enjoyed the fact that they were able to use their magic to go to other places, basically other worlds, so that it wasn't like a completely doomed situation. I always liked the idea of being able to go to different places.
Well, that
Should the worst arise.
that first place, it was clearly a created place, like it was like a pocket in a dimension.
I did they mention that it was a pocket, like a pocket dimension?
They suggested heavily that it was created by the guy he went there to see. Oh, what was his name?
Yeah.
With a P.
Super powerful sorcerer.
Yeah, it was heavily suggested he made that world.
Yeah, and that's why it was the way it was.
What did you guys think of the other magic though? Like the items, I thought that they were.
That I thought those were really cool. Like the cursed amulet. No, not even the wearer can look at it, otherwise you will be, I guess, devoured by it.
Just super ambiguous, but yet super wide scoping enchantments on the items that would just super protective.
Oh yeah.
And then
the
that one rune that countered the barrier, that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, the dancing sword.
Yeah.
That's always a favorite, which is funny because I haven't actually seen one of those in a game in a good long time.
They used to be in games.
They are OP as fuck is the thing. You give any player a dancing sword and all of a sudden they have almost an auto hit because it's the only thing that makes sense. I mean, every single dancing sword I've seen has auto hit ability.
Oh well, see, yeah.
If you don't want it, you literally have to make it yourself because everybody thinks dancing swords, even Palladium's dancing swords, have basically automatic hit.
So you don't give out something like
that. We got
until,
two new contestants on the Price is Right.
Until they have to deal with a bad guy that has something.
Hey, I think this is the Price is Wrong for legal reasons.
Welcome, guys. Sorry, I'm having fumble finger syndrome. Welcome, James. Welcome, Omen. How you guys doing?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Just trying to wash all the stuff off from the last 4 days of trekking up and down dams. So I'm good.
Oh.
How about you, James?
Oh, I had to have a deep cleaning today on my left side, so I got a headache.
No.
Sorry to hear that, bro.
The numbing stuff always jacks me up.
So, Omen, like or love the story, or hate the story?
Which ones?
The
very first one.
Just the very first story.
You know what? How do I want to put this? I love the visuals that he comes up with. You don't necessarily have to like the story, but when everyone talks about High Gygaxian, you absolutely know where he got that from. It's Jack Vance. I mean, just the way he paints everything. That's to me the real thing about this. The stories to me are always okay, but the visuals that he brings with it, and the words,
the prose.
He has such an economy of words. That I think is the real thing that comes with these books. Now, I'm trying to remember which one was the first story. The first story was the one with the woman.
With the bats and all that.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. I'm not saying it was great, but I want to see where these things go. And I just finished up the whole book now, so that's where I am. But I am. I thought it was we had the two. I guess they were the
Tija and Turja or whatever.
Yeah,
Turja and Amir or something like that. Yeah, I could look it up. I should have actually wrote some notes down. But...
I'm a little bit.
Whoa! Do you think any of us around here are competent?
Not quite as far as you, Omen.
So that's what I look at is, when every time that we read a book for this, what are we
Yes.
pulling out for the games? And for me, it's
The squirrel.
Yeah.
it's all of the words that are coming.
Yeah.
It's just that's what comes out for this is this. You read this to say, oh, okay, I'm going to improve my vocabulary, and maybe I can get something that's a little bit more illustrious in my visual description.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head, man. That he's used 100 words that I'm like, I don't know this word,
Yeah.
and I'm certain he's making shit up as he's going along.
Nazorian,
Do
yes,
the
that is
dictionary.
Omanau. If Shadow would take the chat down, you'd be able to tell.
Oh, sorry, no, I did respond.
Yes. So
He's like, do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Nobody understands the words that are coming out of your mouth.
That isn't popping up in the side chat, bro.
Well, I like it that it does show what I've been telling people for years, which is magic users are mad scientists, and everybody gets mad at me.
Well, that's why they have laboratories,
Yeah,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Right.
If you're at the wizard lair, the tower, his underground facility in like D&D type of land, there should be experimental stuff. There should be creatures stuck in tubes and like
yeah. Justin has a little
yeah.
experience with me doing that. I think.
A brain in a jar
So does
that
Omen?
tries to talk to you.
If he's high enough, you might find a tube with another him in it
Right.
because of the clone spell.
Right,
Yep.
which is something I thought right the very first time I was reading this. I'm like, wow, they're pulling out 8th level spells right off the right. The first chapter, 8th level spells. I'm like, wow,
The impression I got from the character, like when they first described his lab, is that this is, I don't know Palladium perfectly, but no, Palladium. I don't know D&D perfectly, but I'd say he would be a 15 to 20th level wizard right off the bat. Like they start off with a high level wizard in the story.
Well, he's in a
Yeah.
dimensional pocket too, so
See, I'm kind of confused. What is the name of the story you guys are talking about?
Tertian Amir.
Tertian Amir, the first one.
From the Dying Earth series.
Right. Is that the one where he has to journey to the library and fight the demon and all that sort of stuff?
No, this is the one where he meets.
the amulet. He has to get the
Pantaloon.
amulet from an opposing
Yeah,
wizard.
for Pantaloon to teach him how to make clones, basically.
Yeah, how to make people. And
Does it got an assassin in it with like a cloak made out of eyeballs?
No, that's a different one. That's
That one sounds cool.
Leonardo the Wayfarer story.
I've read all the Jack Vance stories, so at this point, I don't even know which.
It's
It's
This
literally
is
the
the
first one.
one with the
Yeah.
two sisters
what's up, off grid.
that look the same, and one's like normal, and the other one hates everything beautiful.
See, because I'm sitting here, and when I think Jack Vance, I think about he had to go to a library, and there were like mutant humans that were riding mutant humans, and sometimes I guess ate those mutant humans. And
that's the story I just finished. That's the last of the. They have like little 6 short stories in the very first Dying Earth book.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the first book. The other books are actually more of like a full-fledged novel.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He hasn't built that much of the world yet.
Cool.
So
Okay,
we're getting characters, we're getting parts of their lives, and we're not
Right.
necessarily getting their lives in the order that they lived it either. In the short stories. But one of the advantages of the short stories is you do have to get what you want across in a certain number of words. So
Maximum of 30 pages.
yeah.
Yeah, Vance, I believe, was one of Gygax's favorite writers. Him and Fritz Lieber and Ari Howard were really much. Gygax liked them much more than he did Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the big thing with, like, when D&D developed, the version that Gygax had in mind just had humans.
Right.
But it was like other people he hung out with that were huge Tolkien fans. And they were like, no, we got to have elves and all this other stuff. And he is
Yeah.
like, oh,
Honestly, everyone's saying D&D is a version of Tolkien. Doesn't make much sense to me for when we started this series for one primary reason. Gygax loves liars and jackasses as the main character.
Who doesn't?
Adventurers need to be scamps.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, let's look at what they were doing. They're going around killing stuff. Mm-hmm. They're going around robbing tombs for the most part, stealing stuff, looting bodies. You know.
Am I the only?
It's why I stand by the line that Murder Hobo is the pinnacle of an RPG character.
Yeah.
If you aren't striving to be a murder hobo,
again, Justin, get out of my freaking head.
If you're not striving to be a murder hobo, you're doing it wrong.
Am I the only one here? There's just a right way to murder hobo, so that you come out looking like the hero.
guys,
make sure nobody's left alive.
Am I the only one who's recently delved into the actual real life Earth hobo lifestyle? Any of you guys done that deep dive yet? And how those folks actually live?
Well, I pass them every day on the road. So.
Those are called hobos. Hobo is something different.
Well, where they used to ride the rails, and they had special symbols and significations.
Mm-hmm.
So
see, Owen's there. Owen's there.
And some of them are quite dangerous down at the Roseville at the rail yard.
Being a hobo was practically being a member of a club back then. I should say a guild, like a thieves guild, where they had their own languages, their own way of doing things.
Yes, they do.
It's a very, very interesting, colorful, depressing, and sad, but not without hope. Part of our history here in the States, and I almost feel like they were just leaps and bounds above the human refuse I have to walk by on a regular basis. It's not even the same thing.
But yeah, you got work to become the king of the road.
Well, they used to say that they would do,
and they wrote songs about it.
Well, they would sharpen knives and do just little knicknacks and things like that.
Yeah, they were almost like the Tinkers of Ireland. You know, the wandering, handyman, the just looking for work kind of thing until, I guess the Depression was over, and then they became something less respectable.
I think a lot of it has to do with, because I was listening to, this is when, the History Channel actually showed history. They did talk about some of the hobos, and they said, I think it was in the 60s and 70s, it started becoming more of the vagrant, violent types that started riding the rails and things. They'd be run off, whereas in the 30s, not so much. And my grandfather used to hang out a little bit with him when he ran away from home. But one of the things they talked about is if you treated a hobo well, he would mark your house. And then more hobos would come in, and you were always promised an interesting, collection of individuals stopping by. And then they had the same songs, like, what is it? Candy Mountain. What is that? If any of you remember the song?
Hard Rock Candy Mountain.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a lot of those.
Well, unfortunately, modern day hobos are quite.
There are no modern day hobos. They're
called
homeless.
Yeah, they're called Californians.
Hey!
Hey, I'm not homeless, and I don't
believe you.
Any of that nonsense.
I thought we just called. Yeah, I thought we just called them. Drug addicted hippies. But yeah.
But I mean, getting back to Vance, though, yeah, it's Earth, billions of years in the future. That's why they described mountains as being so low and round. Mm-hmm. The sun is red and dim, and magic. The one story I remember, the one guy who memorizes a spell, it's literally geometry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he does a lot of mathematics, and then somehow that empowers a spell that he puts in his brain.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the number of spells you can keep in your brain is determined by how powerful you are.
And they were fixed.
Otherwise, you can burn yourself up.
And they were also fixed. There were only a certain number of spells, period. There were not.
Which is why Gygax did what he did.
Mm-hmm. Well, although he took it to a much generous extreme, I would say, compared to 4 spells, a good level wizard like we were talking about, like we assume most of these characters are, would have probably had 15 to 25 spells in their head at one time.
But I mean, what did they have? 3 to 5 maximum.
Well, how many spells do you think a 9th level character in AD&D has?
Like 5 first, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 9, 15 by the spell slot system.
Yeah, which is the Vance'S magic system.
Right. So either these guys were, really, really low level magic users, or Gygax just said, "Yeah, screw it. We're gonna expand upon that," and because then again, it is a game.
Probably that one. Power creep has always been the thing.
Well,
in the stories, the characters, they have like one encounter, and okay, 4 spells, that'll do it. Whereas our characters have the whole day with a multitude of potential encounters and situations. These characters, they come in, they do their scene, okay, blast off the spells. Phew, thank God I had one last spell to do the thing, and on to the next scene.
Well, but remember, most of these characters are also the equivalent of fighters, not magic users in the game.
So sometimes, yes, yeah, they were definitely more skilled or more versatile individuals than Gygaxian wizards.
And there is no one thing in there, and I understand why he picked the Vance'S system, because it's easy to do for the game. You don't have to fight with it.
It makes a lot of sense for then, but as we all know, spell point systems are far superior.
No, I don't disagree with you. Spell systems are more flexible. I'll put it that way. I think that's.
You mean spell point?
Yeah.
I absolutely. There should be some of that give and take, to where you can pump extra energy into your whatever the spell it is, or maybe even less. Maybe you're half-assing it. It's like, I'm only going to put 3 points into this 5th level spell kind of thing. Sure, okay. You don't want to burn yourself out, or you don't need it to do everything. As opposed to it's so cut and dried, like the way many spell systems are. The spell does this and only this.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I looked at with the BX versus the AD&D. The spells tend to be more flexible and give multiple effects versus D&D. But part of it is, he took from everything in there. But even if you look at the old white box, and what the idea was is he had no problems with Tolkien. Everyone says, "Oh, he hated Tolkien." He hated Tolkien after he got sued and he couldn't use all the monsters in there. Is when he really got pissed off. The way things were back then, people were pretty litigious back in the day. I have some experience with that.
People are still litigious.
Yeah, they're more so now. But they were.
It's harder to get away with calling things a unique idea, because it's easier to spread ideas now.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think anyone ever said that Gygax had a problem with Tolkien. Tolkien just wasn't in his top 3 favorite writers.
Right.
Well, he really became anti-Tolkien after he got sued and he couldn't use the hobbits and ents and stuff like that. That's when he.
Which is really kind of a shame if you think about it. Because all that was doing was promoting a fantasy novel by using, they weren't using Bilbo, they weren't using Frodo, they were just using the name, which I think they put a little too much, stock into the name The Hobbit. Well, it wasn't The Hobbit, it's a bunch of hobbits. It's all the other hobbits that people want to, be, instead of just, because how many of us were in a game where somebody in the group literally took a name like Bilbo or Frodo and just placed it on their character sheet. I'm running Bilbo.
You know what? I'm okay with that too. At least I know
my first character was named Elrond.
Yeah.
Aragorn.
A lot of
Hubbard.
people did that. Yeah.
Aragorn.
Yep, he
How
got
many
killed right
Elrics
off
were
the
out
bat
there?
on the
Same
first
here.
adventure, and I stopped playing elves after that. I was like, elves suck.
Well,
but
the thing
other
is-
part,
Well, that's the problem. You're not supposed to play an elf named Elrond. You're supposed to play a ginger that's a little maniacal.
let's not forget that this, he came from a war game background. If you wanted fantasy, your biggest fantasy battles came from Tolkien. When the Battle of the
did they?
Five
I'm
Armies.
trying to
big
read.
war
I'm trying
gaming,
to-
yeah.
Yeah,
I-
for the
That,
war
that
game.
would
honestly-
be a logical thing to experiment with if you were a war gamer.
I thought he was honestly more Arthurian. A more
He
Arthurian fan.
seemed to be a lot more concerned with like
Merlin and Arthur and
Merlin and all that.
Well, the reason you have all the early different elf races is that comes straight from Tolkien.
yes.
I mean, their first write-ups were Tolkien write-ups, and then they had to rename everything. And
Yeah,
Well, they also had, let's be honest, and you've mentioned this too.
it
The
works too,
the green foreign Martians from the
the Tharks.
Son of Mars. Yeah, I mean they they stole everything that was out there, which was great for a little hobby game that's coming out there. It's like, oh, let me take this, let me grab this. I mean, you can even see the deities and demigods. There is no. It's like, hey, we're putting every pantheon in there that we can find.
Well, I just actually read that book last week. I actually read through all the original White Box books, and I was absolutely blown away with how much of it was actually AD&D before AD&D. There's so much,
you can see the development easily.
Yes, just a crack. By the time you get to the final supplement, which I believe is Deities, Demigods, and Heroes, there's almost everything there.
Right, and then if you whip out the strategic review and then the early Dragon magazines, you can really see how things develop and make their way into all. You have your core books for AD&D, and then you have all the other books that came
right, because
out.
like one of my
See how that
earliest
stuff made its way.
I wore this shirt for a reason. One of my earliest forays into D&D was the original basic box, which was I thought it was just white box, but simplified. The dragon, the wizard.
that's Blue Holmes.
Yeah, Blue
Right.
Holmes.
And
It was still Gygax wrote it, Holmes edited.
right, but I thought
That's how it works with all of them. Like the Moldvay Cook box set, it's Gygax wrote it, Moldvay and Cook edited.
I thought that white box was more like the Holmes edition, but it wasn't. The white box was closer to AD&D, and I was thinking all this time, oh, white box must have sucked. It must have been for babies, the beginner version. And rereading it just recently, I'm like, I could play this. I'd be playing AD&D, but if someone said, hey, I'm running a white box game, you want in? I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
People complained that the white box was hard to understand. And that's kind of understandable when you consider the way that Gary Gygax wrote things.
It was very convoluted when it came
Hardest
to like
book-
mechanics.
Hardest
It was
book
the old
supplements.
Avalon Hill style of writing. I mean, it really was. I mean, that was you had to have a game master to figure it out anyway, because they weren't
I know, right?
complete.
Even like a 4-player game, a versus game, you had to have a referee back then. You know what I mean? It would be like playing Axis and Allies or Monopoly with a dungeon master.
But I mean, a lot of times they
Well,
wanted
Monopoly does have a dungeon master.
The banker.
It's the banker.
No, but I mean like someone to no, you can't do that. Kind of referee.
Well, the other part is hey, I move these guys. Can they be seen? Because like they were traditional war gamers, and it shows that just like people misrepresent hit points. If you actually look at like a lot of it you don't even understand. I think that was part of the problem as kids. I didn't have access to white box, so because of that, I didn't understand a lot of the things that he was talking about. I mean, they did try to explain it in the player's handbook, but being the bad child I was, I went over and just read the rules that I cared about and not the philosophy behind it.
Well, there was stuff I didn't understand until I had a chance to see Chainmail many years later, and I went, "Oh,
Yeah, I'm still looking for my copy of Chainmail. I found my deities, demigods, and heroes, which sent me down this path of looking into the original white box. And I found my swords and spells, but no
the hardest
Chainmail.
supplement to understand that was produced that I would say is old D&D was Eldritch Wizardry, because just how the thing is laid out, it's a mess.
Well, there was nothing. There was nothing really other than maybe the Avalon Hill games to kind of go by in formatting this. And mind you, it was a piece of paper, a stack of paper stapled in the middle with the cheesiest of covers available. You know what I mean? To barely even call it a cover. Basically, essentially, a piece of construction paper stapled to some pages, folded in half.
And don't forget, like sometimes you couldn't afford to buy everything, so somebody would get one book and somebody else would get another book, and then you would be taking notes off of each other's books.
Well, all you had to do was just take out the staples and run it through a photocopier.
Yeah.
That was the good thing about just getting like one of the box sets. You were pretty much. But Nosferian, the draw to the Tolkien fans, that was not Gygax. That was one of the other guys.
That was Arneson.
Yeah, that was super hardcore about Tolkien. And if you read the Arneson's early adventures, he's got like his party of dwarves fighting a Balrog, like right off the bat.
Wow!
Yeah,
that's very. That sounds very Arduin like, to be honest, doesn't it, Grandma?
Well, old D&D. If you go looking at it, it becomes clear that when they were first doing stuff, game balance. What's that?
well, that's why you had the referee. The referee wasn't trying. The referee wasn't trying to do game balance. He was trying to make interesting scenarios, which is what you have, whenever you play any game, especially back then for war games, they would pick like a historic battle that was always a little asymmetric. Oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. Could I do differently? I remember playing that with Gettysburg and a lot of these things, which GMT does now. GMT does all the Avalon Hill style games.
So yeah, you got to look at it that some concepts that we take for granted, or rather the gaming community takes for granted, simply weren't developed quite yet, and they kind of came into development. I mean, the idea, obviously, about giving your weaker player characters weaker monsters to start with, I'm sure people did that. They talked about making the levels.
It was dungeon level. Remember, it was dungeon level, not character level.
But it was, if you're out in the wilderness and you decide to go pick you take your first level characters that can be killed by a chipmunk out down to meet the local red dragon. Well,
that's on you.
Yeah,
maybe not chipmunk, but it is a fact that a first level wizard can be killed by a cat.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Like just a straight up normal house cat can kill a first level wizard, no problem.
So,
but
I guess they all have anemia
too. Gary Gygax in B2 Keep on the Borderland has an encounter where you encounter 1d6 whites.
Yeah.
What party of 1 through 3rd level players is going to survive 6 whites?
Nope.
It's not happening.
Well, and the expectation is that the players would start using silver weapons and stuff, instead of
the implication is
everything for magic. The other part
you run like hell.
The implication is Gary Gygax likes short adventures.
Right.
I don't blame him for that.
Next to you and haul ass.
I also get the impression, especially with Keep on the Borderlands, it was one of those early games where if you didn't go back to the keep after like the first 4 or 5 rooms, you're just going to die. You got a couple of gold, you go back to the keep, you rest up, maybe you buy some silver arrows or whatever, you go back, hit another couple of rooms. You were going back and forth to this place. It wasn't like we're going to clear the dungeon in one try. No, none of that shit.
The keep was definitely designed to be the home base thing and go out and explore the edges of the frontier.
Right.
And remember, B2 came out. What was it?
Oh, I love
3 or
B2.
4 years after AD&D.
Right.
That's the other thing. Is the
No, I was
BX
thinking
stuff?
B1. Sorry.
Yeah, the BX stuff came out years after AD&D, which is why BX feels like it's a more refined system for certain things instead of trying to do it. The other part is when you're talking about like for like if you look at the aerial and it has like A, B, C, D, E, you
Yeah.
know, for how fast, and the intention was that you were going to play that as if you were doing a
Tactical war game.
a World War II aerial battle.
I was thinking more World War One, Stop with Camel kind of thing.
I think what it says is something over the skies. There's
Well,
a reference.
Dawn Patrol was a very famous game for TSR, which was World War One.
Yeah.
Airplane.
Well, this was before that. They said, hey, go use this rule system over here. I think in the white box it says go use this system over here, which wasn't even produced by them to do aerial battles.
You know what else I noticed, which was really weird? They kept referring to this game Survival that was made by also another company. When you're doing these things in the white box, it said, "Oh, go and buy this other game and use it for our game." I'm just like, what?
Well,
thanks for the plug, I guess, but so now I got to buy that game too.
Came with a hex map, and you like basically did a hex crawl and rolled on random tables to see if you could find enough water and food to live.
Right. Didn't was it Avalon Hill or somebody?
I think that might have been Avalon Hill.
Yeah, I've seen it for sale. It's not real expensive, and I'm just like, you know what?
Outdoor survival. Okay.
Yeah, it's a straight up survival like solo game. As you just playing this game.
But the thing is if you read through the rules carefully, well, one, you get your first hex map. So, that's nice. Here we go. Here's part of the map.
The prepper in me absolutely approves of such a thing.
Okay, so you get the DM has something to whip out for that overland travel. You get a map key, and the map key gives you important information like how long it takes a person to travel across different terrain. Right. Then you get rules about getting lost in the wilderness. They get lost.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't get lost.
Yeah, it actually has a cool little like how to survive outdoors for real, first aid, lots of kind of stuff.
Okay.
And
I know it's on my shopping list for Christmas.
Okay, let me get some more stuff out here. I got the whole box. So you get these things. And what they do is they allow you to track your water and your food. And if you look down here at the bottom, what state your little person's getting in until they die. So
it kind of reminds me of the pain chart when you go into the emergency room with the little smiley faces all the way down to the Mr. Yuck face.
Yeah, and then they've got all these little things that tell you, if you get to certain locations on the map, on a die roll, whether it's a natural hazard, an animal, insect,
whether a grizzly bear eats you.
Yeah, personal gain.
I'm getting very strong Oregon Trail vibes with this game.
Yes. This is Oregon Trail. Before Oregon Trail. So
I was in that play as a kid. That's funny.
Yeah. So I've actually taken a real close look at this, and after I got my hands on one, because like the rest of you, I just started playing D&D. We did not have this, but now that I've had it to look at, if I played D&D really old school, I would be using a lot of this. To be quite honest. Because here's your little card. Now stay alive, kids.
Right. What's funny about that is it took them 15, almost 20 years to finally come out with the Dungeoneers and Wilderness Survival Guides.
But it wasn't needed in a lot of cases.
I know, but they eventually, what do they call it?
Yeah, the manual is awesome.
Don't get me wrong. I actually love those books. I did not like the. That was my issue with, but but the other part is TSR was a very small company. They couldn't produce everything. So at the time, it's like, why aren't we taking these existing games and creating rule sets that are more coherent for everyone to go back?
Now,
and
the
I
other,
think there's that. I mean, I forgot what it was, but I think it's a World War II ace, fighter ace combat game that they had to do, and that's what you're supposed to use if you're fighting like with dragons and everything else.
right,
with
right.
PSI and stuff.
That's what Shadow was talking about a minute ago.
Yeah,
It's a good way to sell all your products, by the way. So, like,
if it wasn't Dawn Patrol, if you look at the back of the old books, they had a little sort of catalog of all the other games, including Tractics, Tricorner, Don't Give Up the Ship. They had a lot of actual military games, and
you
But
need
TSR
rules,
wasn't the
go
one
buy the
producing
Navy
those.
game,
So
I have most of them. They're all TSR.
No. But I'm saying, by the time when D&D came out, they weren't producing, I think, those games that they reference. Is what I'm trying to say. They're using third-party games.
Maybe not.
Was it Gygax and Ward that did the wooden ships and Iron Men or something like that?
No, it was.
And that's where you get armor class from.
I got it right here.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah. Well,
The
yeah.
problem is they
points,
started going negative
points,
armor
all
class, and that was
stuff,
the bad part.
Right.
Made sense
Star
otherwise.
Probe, Stellar Wars, Don't Give Up the Ship, TSR,
Yep, that might
Dark
be the one
Empires,
I'm thinking of.
Swords and
We kind of got off track.
Well, yeah, I was going to get back on, but we always do get off track. Having read the first story and more for you guys, what's your biggest takeaway back into the game? I'll start with you, Justin. If you were going to run a game, is there anything that you grab from this first story? Any style or substance that you would borrow from?
I don't know. I like the story, but I don't like the structure. It's given games I've seen before, so I probably wouldn't take anything. Maybe the odd spell, but not the structure, not the Vance'S magic system. I'm not a fan of it. So
no,
there'd be the spells and effect, not in.
What about the setting or the characters, the NPCs, the strange.
Oh yeah. Definitely you could sprinkle those through any game.
Because that's one thing I really
the main character, the back guy. I've been working on a character similar to that.
I like the idea. I've been trying my whole life to try to come up with stupid things like trees and mundane animals that aren't cows, pigs, sheep, and pine trees. I know we can never do that without CGI and things like that. But anytime you watch a movie or a TV show, you're like, oh, filmed in Canada, filmed in Spain.
Dawn Patrol's a good game, Doc.
Yeah, Dawn Patrol's good. Well, I don't know. I wish I had it. I know you better not snipe my no. Actually, Kelly Foote, who worked with a TSR and I'm in a game with, he's actually going to hook me up with a copy. But right now he's vacationing in Spain or some shit. So must be rough. But yeah, I've always wanted to create like an almanac or something of trees and plants and animals that are just vastly different, so that I could drop them in. It's a very rare game that you find where the trees or the plants or just whatever, the skies even, don't look just like Earth. So
the Greyhawk campaign setting has numerous fantastical plants, like bronzewood and thorn trees and all kinds of crazy shit.
I'll have to go through that. I have the original Greyhawk Gazetteer, and I haven't pulled that out of mothballs in 40 years.
And
it even talks about using the thorns as weapons, because I guess they get like yay big.
Yeah, and then mining all the old Pulp Fiction stories. I mean, there's
Don't get me
so
started,
many
Grandma. Don't get
plants
me
and
started.
weird animals.
Those covers alone are worth their weight in gold. The
Right.
old
They're just
Astonishing Magazine, Argosy, all those old
yeah.
magazines.
The crab tiger thing that was from one magazine, you know.
What about you, James? What would you pull or have you pulled from Vance into your own worlds?
The thing with Vance is, since when I play AD&D, I just play AD&D. I
Mm-hmm.
guess I'm already pulling the magic system and everything from Vance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's a given. Uh, there's really nothing else I would pull. I would say that Monty Cook's Numenora game is probably should have been called Dying Earth or whatever. Because it's pretty much the Earth, billions of years in the future, and no one understands anything, and everyone thinks everything's magic.
Oh, well, that sounds like Dying Earth.
He
Yep.
probably couldn't get the rights to the
name.
IP.
Maybe not. I don't know.
But Goodman Games got the rights to use Dying Earth, and so you can buy the box set from them.
Yeah,
I
but
know they got the rights for Lankmar because I have the box set.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like the original AD&D Lankmar.
Yeah, that was cool.
It's solid gold.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the Dying Earth. They had the Kickstarter a couple years ago, and I think they delivered last year. You know, the sad thing is, and this is what I find really sad, is Goodman Games, you can get them for being woke and all the other stuff, but they're the only one that I see on their front page go back to these old, whether it's the old modules, old D&D, old writers, you know, it's like, oh, okay, hey, this week we're going to celebrate, you know, Roger Zelazny, and this week we're going to celebrate Jack Vance, and yeah, it's.
I mean, is it being woke, or are they just changing the way they spell certain words in their game?
I think for them, it's more of just, hey, we're going to do the they versus he. Yeah,
The
to me,
they
it's not.
thing.
It's minor, but I think they're. When I read it, it didn't really bother me for a lot of stuff. But it does sound funny when he's writing about himself, and all they did was click Control F, and if it says he, they changed it to they, and he just did that through the entire book. So in certain cases, he's talking about himself. He says they. It's like, dude, you're talking about yourself.
Yeah.
You know what you are.
well, what they're doing is they're just avoiding for them unnecessary baloney. And I know people don't like to hear that, but it's true. Like I have some games out of DWD, and this game I have out of DWD when it hit the market, they were immediately attacked for even though it had he and she throughout the book. You know, they were just terrible people. Terrible.
Oh, of course.
You know, and even though there was a little disclaimer that they were just going to use proper English,
Right.
not
right.
One game I love,
New thinking.
Frontier Space, that's what they do. And in like the first page of the book, they say, this is the writing style we use. We use he, whatever.
That's the game I was thinking of. And they took a
Frontier
lot
Space.
of grief
Yeah, I
for
love
that.
it.
They took a lot of, it's got some good mechanics, innovations in it.
Well, so Squirrel Hermit says the Dying
got
Earth
that
Kickstarter is pretty good.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Well, that's good to know.
You know, I'm waiting until they have the 50% off.
Yeah,
You know?
it was pretty spendy when I looked at it, and it had already finished the Kickstarter. So I figure, you know what, I'll do what I always do. I'll throw it in my search engine on eBay and wait until a copy, is cheaper than it started out as, or maybe they'll reprint it.
I can't always afford the Kickstarter stuff.
So I wait until they have their Black Friday sales and it's 40% off. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll buy this one.
Well, if you see it, Omen, at like you said, 40% off, let me know, because I'll forget, because I'll be doing something else around Black Friday. So, Omen, what are you going to take from the Dying Earth?
The vocabulary. I love on how I mean, what he does in one sentence is what a lot of people have to do in a whole paragraph.
Yes.
And I feel like, okay, it's there. I think, when we were comparing Moorcock to Vance, of course, like we were all joking about it. When I was I was reading it, I guess last year or so, I had to have the thesaurus with me, or the dictionary right next to me, just to make sure that I knew what those words were, that I wasn't missing something. And I do enjoy, I did enjoy it because you just, wow, I can luxuriate in the verbiage. I'm not reading a rule system. I'm reading a book that I can. You really want to visualize whatever he's saying, and what he can do with just a few words is so good.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
So this
agree with
brings
you
us
there.
to DM tip. Make your word lists.
I was meaning to
For
mention that
different conditions.
to TCG and anybody else who's doing our writing challenge. The Simple Thesaurus .com app or program or whatever you want to website go to has been invaluable these last weeks. Just looking for different words to replace repetitive words that I myself
Yeah, synonyms.
It was a
just
dark
Looking
and
for
dreary
synonyms.
night. Okay.
you
How
guys,
else would
nobody
you
even
say that
noticed that.
other ways?
Nobody even noticed that my first story started out with it's a dark and stormy night.
It's fine. I have no problem with that.
There's no problem starting
It's
it that
just
way.
you can also use that to differentiate the voice of characters.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Have them
Mhm.
specifically using different
Well, another thing
synonyms for
I
a
found it
thing.
really useful for Justin and everybody. Like when I'm trying to name something, like for example, I wanted another word for West, and I don't know why this came up, but DeCamp came up, and I'm like, oh really? I'm gonna use that.
Well, the Zephyr for West Wind,
Yep.
that's that. There's a lot of stuff out there, and I think, part of the problem that I have, and they talk about it, is in certain cases, when we grew up as kids, we had a lot of Greek mythology, we had Norse mythology, we had some Egyptian mythology, we had, of course, the Christian mythologies for this, and it gave a frame of reference for a lot of things. And now people are missing that, and they don't understand what any of these things are from. They,
Yeah.
of
If you
course,
say it's a Zephyrian breeze, they're going to look stupid at you.
Well, I'm not going to touch that one because let's face it, they probably are stupid. TCG, how about you, man? Anything you're going to pull from this?
Pantaloon. I,
Pantaloon.
as of late, have learned. I can't remember his name. Okay, that's all I can remember. I have learned the value of the carrot and stick as of late as a GM, and I haven't had a chance because I've said it several times. As a new first 10 years of me GMing, I didn't have a good set of balls on me, so I kind of just let the players mow me over. But now I definitely want to do the carrot and stick. And
See the shiny?
Pantaloon,
You can have it.
yeah, is one of those great things. And it even says that in the book, basically. Here's your stick, here's your carrot. And by the way, here's the stick.
Yeah, there's always going to be a like a struggle for the reward, or the reward becomes meaningless.
Yeah.
Correct.
and I think that's part of the. And I'm not going to knock it. Everyone talks about these youngins coming up. I remember the same similar stuff when I was a kid, for the same stupid things that they're all complaining about. And if you read back some of the Dragon magazines, you see it too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you know what? When these people hopefully mature, it might take them a bit longer, because it's only taken me 50 years to get here, and it might take them 60. But it's
90.
But will there be a world to actually game in?
Yeah.
Or will everybody just
There will be. Stop being a paranoid weirdo.
No, he's not being paranoid. He's just referring to the fact that the difference is that he likes to do something besides, literally rock, stick, and fire. It's the three winners.
No, I was actually referring, Justin, to people attached to these things so much.
Oh yeah.
I live in a beautiful place. Every night I watch the sun go down. I used to actually take pictures of the sunset because it's just freaking marvelous. And I mentioned that, and people are like, "Huh?" In my neighborhood,
Yeah.
and they don't, they just have
They
completely
don't see
checked
it.
out. They've
Now,
checked
now,
out.
now they'll look at a picture of a photo somebody else has taken of the sunset.
Right. Or the
That's one of the
like on
things.
my. Go ahead, TCG.
I was going to say that's one of the things. As much as I hate all the new people moving up here, we've almost doubled in size in the last 10 years for the area. All the new people moving up appreciate the area and say things. Oh, look how beautiful that is, or oh, that mountain. I love seeing that every morning. It's like, at least you appreciate it. Most of the locals are like, yeah, I've seen it 100 times. That doesn't mean it isn't still beautiful.
Right.
I think that's all of us at a certain point. Sometimes we just need to take a step back, get in a rocking chair.
What is it to take time to stop and smell the roses? Kind of.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's why whenever I hear people talk about how
Oh
bad
my
they
god!
like
I didn't
it,
even see that off grid.
Yep.
Said this. Oh my god! Great minds.
Yep. But
I think
there's so much out there that
live in states other than Kentucky, because we're always thankful to be there.
Well,
Yeah.
like I said,
Like, I'm constantly posting pictures of the mist coming down the mountainside.
I'll start sending you some sunsets there.
You know, like, oh no, they've awakened the fire burn.
but that's the other part is, just traveling, just even driving place. Everyone gets onto a plane and they magically go from one place to the other and ignore the whole thing. When my son and I were driving across the country, holy crap, you get to see change in environments and everything.
Oh yeah.
And you go on the west side of the Rockies. We were following that. We hit some of them like 8,000-10,000 feet. We're coming across. We go across the Continental Divide. We hit the eastern side, the high plains up in northwest Texas. But you get to see a lot of this stuff. And then of course we were talking about meteorites hitting the Earth. It just, and that's one thing I think Jack Vance did really well, was he was painting not just the sky, but also all of the different things around there. I mean,
And by seeing stuff, you get ideas. Like if you go out on the cinder field, and it looks say around Sunset Volcano, there a civilization was there. It left because there was a volcanic thing happened, and then they came back and they built on top of all that volcanic stuff. And so it's really, you got all this black volcanic rock, and then you've got all these ruins out there on top of it.
There's so much out there, but sometimes I think that when we talk about playing games and doing everything indoors, at a certain point, go touch grass, people. Go out,
Omen,
devices and enjoy it.
If any of you guys have seen my prepper videos, that's because it's prepping for gamers, and one of the things I'm always harping on is go out there and not just get some fresh air and some sunlight, but go.
What is this fresh air you speak of?
Well, you're in Canada, so you're not used to it outside.
You're spoiled rotten. You got. I haven't seen. Well, what better way to be able to describe the very thing your players are doing when they're trekking across, the land to go to the dungeon of whatever, to be able to describe the literal walking or riding, through the forest, over the hills, on the way to grandma's house, whatever. If you've never seen, a group of trees other than just the ones that line your street, you know what I mean? You have no way to relate to trying to do that. Sure, you could just fast travel it, but as you get older, you'll find that you want to, like Owen said, luxuriate in hearing the words of someone else describing these things, the hills and the smells and the way the weather feels and the moisture in the air, all those things that are just completely, part and parcel to adventuring, because adventuring is 90% travel.
Right.
Here's the other part, though. As much as we complain about us not going outside, I heard somewhere that they were talking to children in Tokyo, and over a third had never seen a sunset or
Oh
something like
wow.
that. And that's great if you're gonna do your sci-fi, cyberpunk kind of game, but that's very different from if you're gonna do a fantasy game, which is civilization is not all around as much. But yeah, and that's the other part too. Yeah, that's the hard part for a lot of these is I just travel, and I don't mean travel just anything big, but just driving across the United States. People forget just how big the United States is, and Europeans have no clue. They look at some place like, oh, it's just this. So
I thought that was someone sneezing.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was a sneeze at first. So, Grandma, what are you taking away from this?
Well, I love the vocab that we've already covered, and I love the super science as magic, which is the way I always thought it should be, and it's seriously lacking currently in modern fantasy games. For them, like D&D, it lost those roots. It just the slot system just became the mechanic, and no. Kids coming and go. My nephew. And it just became it's got to just be woo-woo. Get out the voodoo dolls. How
many of you? I mean, we're all talking about this, but how many of you grew up on Thunder the Barbarian?
Oh, totally. Saw that.
Yeah, I mean that. I was like, oh, okay, that's perfect for a Jack Vance'S feel.
Yeah.
If you want something visual.
Right. And, trying to understand brevity of words, where you get what you want with less instead of more.
That's kind of what I was gonna my takeaway for this, and not just this, but other things. But it's with the characters. I really enjoyed certain characters in this story, and he didn't need to give me a full page on the character. Just a few lines here, a few lines there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this character's awesome. The crazy bitch. I was like, oh my god, I want to know more. You know what I mean? What would drive someone to be like that? And then some of the other characters, even the bad guy with the amulet, just he didn't need just a few words here, well placed, just the right words, and boom, know this character, you know him, you know everything you need to know about them. And when especially for me, one of the cardinal sins of dungeon mastering is overdoing it, hamming it up with your NPCs and trying to steal the show. I've seen it a million times. It's like, no, they're not the star. It's the players are the star of the show. Okay,
right.
They're going to have their ups and downs and potential TPKs or deaths, but it's still about them. So
yes,
making the characters, giving them their moment to shine. Sure, you got to throw in the NPC and let them do a thing or two here or there. But even when you do that, they've got to be, like almost blurred out when they're doing it.
How many of you? A little bit different. How many of you guys have played Shadow of War or Shadow over Mordor?
Nope. I've not played those.
Played and beat both. Shadow of Mordor was okay. No, Shadow of Mordor was great. Shadow of War was okay.
The reason I mention it is that they had what was called the Nemesis system. So it wasn't even the main one. That the Nemesis system was, and this is what your players will do, is they will focus on an NPC that is kind of a throwaway character, and yet that will become their nemesis over time without you even intending it, if you allow it to happen.
Right.
And then you can ham up a little bit, then you can do a little bit in there, but the players are the ones that are going to decide on who they want their nemesis to be.
And which NPCs become important other ways. If you let it naturally develop versus forced.
Yeah, like trying to give them an info dump on this NPC. Right. You might as well just say, here's someone I want you to hate, because you're going to have to listen to me expound about all the virtues and vices of this NPC that I know you're not going to care about, but I'm trying real hard to make you care. Just do
Yeah.
it. Show them, don't tell them.
The professor in
Yeah.
Dungeon Craft in one of his videos gave an excellent example of the NPC that becomes important that nobody thought would be important.
Oh
which
yeah.
was
What was it? The orc chief or something?
Well, one was the torchbearer.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh yeah.
so they hired a kid, you know, to carry the torch around the dungeon, for them, and then over the course of the story, they find out things like, about the kid, and so they start developing a vested interest in the kid. So when the kid gets killed, well, it's vengeance is on.
Well, and you don't have to do the whole exposition over the entire thing. If you
that's just it.
off-grid Ragnar.
He had no idea that they would freak out when the kid died.
Yeah.
But over time, those nemesis NPCs, they start. You just give a little bit in tidbits, and if they want to find out more information, they will. Yeah. And then you flesh it out from there, but you don't force it on them.
You learn a character by being with them, not by reading a stat sheet.
That's correct.
All at once. You learn that if you ever take a writing class. It's bad writing to just list out this person is a heroic painter who likes to do. No, you have those things explored through scenes and through the story. And that's the same way you do it in a role playing game.
And that's probably one of the flaws I see that everybody's been guilty of at some point in their game.
Yeah, I did a video. I was just talking about it again recently. 10 ways to ruin your own campaign, because over the course of the last 2 years of playing, I watched these supposed phenomenal DMs go and break with wild abandon every one of the most basic tenets of dungeon mastering. Don't do that.
You're gonna tank it. Oh no!
and when you learn to allow the NPC to be developed through actions in the game, it becomes easier for you to like just have them come and go. Like if you don't pre-create them, you allow them to be created through the gameplay.
Right.
They don't become precious children that you have to protect for preconceived story plot or whatever, right?
And the interaction between the players and the NPCs.
Well, you know what? I disagree a little with that, Justin. When I do make an NPC, I do want to have some basics down. I'm not going to just give them a name and throw them on stage. I'm going to have some things. And I might even throw in a secret or a motivation or something like that, because they if I was writing a play, I would do the same thing. There's some things, but not everything. Definitely leave some stuff, to learn as the DM. Wow, I didn't know that this NPC I created was also this, because now it fits.
Well, also having nameless stat cards is useful. Yeah. Nameless warrior, nameless shopkeeper.
Yeah. Right.
That's why you have the random generation name tables for the cultural area you're in.
I think Justin's saying don't get wed to the NPC.
No,
definitely. Also, like if you want a thing to be like told in the story, right? Like you have an idea, but it's convenient or good for what's happening for that character to die. That same motivation can always be ported to another character.
Yeah, because nobody knows what you're doing behind the scenes, right?
Exactly.
Right. They don't know. They don't know what. Yeah, that's. It's just when you're DMing, they don't necessarily know when you've made a mistake, or if something's gone off the rails in a way that, unless they have that material, as the book says, that NPC X is supposed to tell the players whatever. They don't know that. So and especially if you're doing your own games. So if NPC X gets killed, well, it's going to be NPC Z that's going to be telling the players that information later.
Instead, yeah,
You know,
and that's like a bad design mechanic of old school modules is that they would give motivations to specific characters and not like NPCs in the writing of them. Instead of saying this is a motivation you want to give to one of the NPCs from this area, not this specific NPC.
I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on that, because a lot of times the motivations were because there's a feudalistic hierarchy in there, and so you want to know what is the Castellan's purpose or something like that. The other part is that sometimes they want to do it to make it for the DM to enjoy to read as well. But
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you on certain parts of it, but it's nice to know, hey, what is the motivation of the king in this area? What is the motivation of this leader over here? So you know on how to play those.
What I mean
actions.
by what I said is like, so your party meets some traveler on the road and they kill him, but he's actually very important to the rest of the module. So your DM is, if not smart, plot armors that NPC.
Yeah, no, that's bad. That's bad.
And that's
One of the
because
cardinal
that piece of information was wedded to that character instead of like put on the page as like a piece of information that you should keep in mind and have attached to some character from wherever.
Yeah, my experience
that information is relevant.
The players will always do a crazy Ivan on you and take out an important NPC, and you better be able to adapt.
Oh, the other thing is, I think that affects more of Call of Cthulhu modules more than most of the others, because it is such an investigative game. If you miss that one character, you miss the entire.
I'm also using an example, right? It could be 100 little things that are like not left open to interpretation.
Off-Grid's got a point, and a really cool mechanical idea is I know a guy.
Yeah.
I know a guy, and allowing the players to say, I think I know a guy in whatever city they're in or whatever.
Yeah, you allow your players to create NPCs. Once they create them, they're the property of the dungeon master, game master. But you allow them to create them because that allows them to push through the narrative without being a strain on the game master.
Don't Lando
my pushback to that is. My pushback to that is, I know a guy. Next thing you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger from Predator shows up.
Yeah, but that's you own that character, so he shows up and says, "I have a grudge on you."
Yeah.
Right? He shows
him a
up.
high school bully, and now they wish they would have never brought him up.
Well, that's my whole point with the Lando Calrissian character. Hey, I know a guy. And then it screws him over because I'll trust him. That's the whole
another
point.
good example.
That's a perfect example in a Star Wars game of, hey, I know a guy. Okay, not only do you not know this guy, well, what are you now? Well, I am now I now oversee the entire city. Well, you're adding all of the background to that, and it's like, we found the greatest friend ever. Yeah, you did until he sucked you into carbonite and, shipped you off.
Because he's in a bad situation.
Yep.
And he's doing the best he can. And legitimately, he was trying to at least help some of them.
Yeah.
Or it could even be, you knew a guy, but when you were much younger, he appeared to be a badass, but he shows up now and he's not a badass. He just appeared that way to you when you were
he's up to his eyeballs in debt and...
Or they know a guy. Yes, we're going to go see the crime lord who was my best friend when we were growing up. And you get there and you find out the crime lord's dead. His worst enemy's in charge. Yeah.
And he hates you just out of spite for the other guy.
No. It gets better. Hey, you remember when you were with my sister? And you're like, it's like, oh crap. And we have that's what you do is just because they put someone out there. Okay, great. I bring in Arnold Schwarzenegger from the Terminator. And he goes, you know what? You always sucked as my thing. This is why I kicked you out of my team. And you're like, wait a minute, that isn't what he makes you go over there and cry, you little pissant
Well,
wimpy, you know.
I can just see you call in freaking Terminator, Arnold, and he's just a poser. So the second he steps out, he gets smacked down like a townsman. He's not even a level 1 player character. He's
I
just
disagree with
stomped by
Shark
like a mushroom. It's not even an animated mushroom. It's just a normal mushroom.
Well, here's the reason. I want you to add all that stuff to the game because that's less work I have to do.
Exactly. And it's fun moments. It becomes comedically enjoyable.
And
If
Well,
you're
you know,
not spiteful
players
about it.
invest.
there's this great word that works in literally half of every situation. It's the good old fashioned word no. You don't have to accept it,
You're
but
right.
you know if it you know seems shady, you know, or you can't think of a way to twist it, you know, around your making, you can go no. But if you
It becomes very spiteful if you say no too many times openly.
right with all things moderation.
And
But-
it's also like fun to run with the punches sometimes.
No, absolutely,
Right?
absolutely.
Like, okay,
Just a friendly reminder that you know because like what Doc was saying, he doesn't like some things, you know.
yeah.
You can always say no, but
Well, obviously, if you're
Your
playing like a hard fantasy game, someone saying "I found a laser cannon" is a hard no. But
my point is just go create that culture. If it seems reasonable, I'll put it in there. It's far away. Go create that city. Go create the you know, let the other part is then the players are invested in your game more. Because the more that
there are definitely, you know, more pros than cons for this particular suggestion.
But everything comes with a plus
A
negative.
cost.
Just because you know a guy, maybe he'll help you, maybe he won't. You know.
Yeah,
Just,
and it's not the player's decision on what those plus and minuses are. It's the DM's.
Right. It's but that's the whole point of it. Is okay. Well, we're gonna have fun, and I know that DM James was mentioning about Numenera. There's a great thing in there where it says GM intrusion in those games, and it says specifically the DM can say, "Guess what? I'm going to do a GM intrusion. Do you want it or not?" And you say, "I'll take it," and he gives you 2 experience points, one for you and one for one of the other players that you decide. Or you can say no, and you can veto it, and they spend the experience point. In all my experiences playing Numenera and Cypher System, every player was like, "Hey, I'm going to do a GM intrusion." I'm like, "Yes, I want the GM intrusion now," because it's usually to make it more interesting for the game. I think that's part of it. But the other thing is, you have to trust your players. If you don't trust your players,
why are you playing
with them?
Yeah, and again on the player side, trust your dungeon master, your game master.
And if not, you know,
I trust my
get ready
players to
start
do
the-
whatever they can to give them the upper hand over me.
Yep.
And if that means
Again, you're playing with bad characters.
That's
you need to find new people to play with.
Yeah, that's depending on the people you play with. Because as much as I go through, a lot of times I'll say, "Hey, Shadow, I could do this. Is it okay?" Before I try using the rolls in a bad way.
Well,
an advantage
I always
having played a lot
warn
of
my players
Cyberpunk.
if it's a deadly game, straight up. You know, you can die like that if you make a bad choice. So they know what they're getting into.
Well, I was just going to bring up the I know a guy thing. In Shadowrun or Cyberpunk, your character starts with contacts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That you then actually are expected to fill out and figure out who they are, and you know, and they can be like super powerful, high level contacts that you know, or just some guy that works down at a mechanic shop.
Yes, trick them into doing the work for you.
So, yeah, that's like my character in the vampire game. I have multiple contacts that have all been written out. You know, like I buddies with the detective named Bill Miller. I'm buddies with a gory crime boss.
Mm-hmm.
Bad Doc. It's not that I distrust the players so much as I regard them as enemies to be crushed.
Yeah, I'm friends with a priest named Father Nectarius. You know what I mean? And I've wrote them all down, and they all have their level, which is their base die pool.
Right.
So depending on what I want them to do, we know what they can do.
I'm going to bring this up too, which is, when you were saying about that with Doc about to crush them. No, my job is to torment them, to torture them, to enjoy watching them squirm, and then to get the ultimate satisfaction as they work their way out of my intricate web, and they surprise me and turn the tide, and then I'm like, then it's a good game.
Can crush your enemies to see them driven before you. Anyway, of course, it's about time for me to mention this. In Baptism of Fire, magic is considered a science.
Baptism of Fire.
Like if you're a priest and you're studying alchemy, that's not magic. That's a science.
Mm-hmm.
So, bro, you mentioned that more than I mentioned Morkborg. So Morkborg.
Yeah, but Morkborg sucks. I mean,
No,
it's
it
a
doesn't.
table-book. It's not even.
It's the best.
Prophecies
It's the
of
best game
Morkborg.
ever.
That's great
Wait,
stuff.
wait,
No,
wait! I've got to say this.
No.
It's the best game ever.
When
No,
did
it's
Justin become the Swedish chef?
Morkborg.
What is best in a GM? To TPK the party, to tear their character sheets before them, and to hear the lamentations of the players.
Yeah, I tried to get interested in Morkborg, but there's no game there, so I couldn't do it.
You're wrong.
Good night.
But
Good night,
Baptism of
Alfred.
Fire is super deep.
Thanks for stopping by, Off Grid. You got to come around more often. You had some very insightful things to say tonight.
Yeah.
That's
So
like
yeah,
So-
the characters in the book, the
Dying Earth? Oh, yeah, we were talking about Dying Earth.
Yeah, Dying Earth.
the evil wizard with the cloak made of eyeballs.
Yeah, don't ruin it for them. They haven't gotten there yet, James. But that is one of my favorite stories so far.
That guy's wild.
It's
Are they
awesome.
still living eyeballs?
You'll have to see.
Yeah, we can't.
It's not
ruin
far.
the
It's not
story.
far, Justin.
But remember,
for
in
me,
AD&D,
But
there
I
is
said
a
you have
magical
to read-
cloak called the Cloak of Eyes.
The story I said you guys all have to read. That's the one.
it will be far for me because it will be when we come back to the next story in the list.
Yeah.
So there is a cloak wizards can wear that's made up of eyeballs in AD&D. It is
Yeah,
magic.
you know they got it from there.
Oh yeah, I mean, guy got loved Vance.
Is it why am I thinking of that classic episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force when Carl loses his body and they make him a new body made out of eyes?
Nothing but eyeballs,
Yeah.
And
and everything hurts. He's just screaming.
You gotta get ripped for when you get stabbed with a
Robot
knife.
chicken.
That's literally my favorite episode of Aqua Teen, and I know I'm going to go off for a minute here. But a while ago on YouTube, they were doing this like stupid marathon of like the same 4 episodes, right? All weekend long, and that was one of them. And I was just like in hog heaven, like, all right, I'll be back in 45 minutes to watch it again.
I gotta download that
Carl,
series
man.
again.
I mean, not only does he live
Freddie
in New
Mercury
Jersey,
was in the
which
video, huh?
sucks.
Freddie Mercury wore one of those in a video, as I recall. I hope you're talking about the Cloak of Eyes.
Yeah. Cloak of Eyes is classic.
Well, I know he wore a dress in one of the videos.
I'm just seeing someone put a bunch of letter I all over their cloak, and you're just going, damn it, that's not what I meant.
You know, I want to be free. I want to be
I liked Jack Vance's writings. I read all the books that or short stories books really that make up Planet of Adventure. I think it's the name of the series, and good stuff in there too to rip off if you're into.
I think you guys are really going to enjoy the Cuggles story because it's a 2-book series of just the worst thief ever in every way. And if I could find it, I'll share the video because the narrator who did it was just perfection.
I just actually finished listening to At the Mountains of Madness today.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
You know, and that's another person. While we talk about Jack Vance, Lovecraft did a good job of that too, of economy of words
Yes.
and giving visuals for it.
Yeah.
Well,
Lovecraft.
if you mean putting 25 adjectives in one sentence, yeah, he did that shit all the time. He would just start with, "It is a dark, gloomy," and just he had the thesaurus in front of him.
Yeah,
because it would just go and go and go.
Well, I still love my favorite
Nice.
is where his favorite description was, and he ate his head like a candy cane. and like all of us can just, it's like you don't have to say anymore, and we'll just visually fill in all the gaps.
Yes. Yeah, that is one of the arts to I think immersion and good storytelling, whether it's movies or literature or D&D, is you do have to let the audience fill in some of the blanks. Like,
hey, Brian.
The worst horror movies I've gone to is where I know everything that's going to happen. Like, there's no filling in the blanks for your mind. Is it around the corner? No, it's around the corner. Oh, it's there. There's no build-up. There's no suspense.
Well, another game I can mention, Bloody Appalachia by Bloat Games. You get to play some average people who go to the hollers in West or Eastern Kentucky or West Virginia, and then one of 100 different horrible things happens to you.
Which game was that one? Something
Bloody Appalachia.
Oh,
Bloody
okay.
Appalachia.
I know that they had
by Bloat Games.
So Monty Cook also had one, which was what, the Old Gods of Appalachia.
Old Gods of Appalachia.
Yeah, they made that into. Not that I was familiar with the podcast.
There's a third one too about getting murdered in Appalachia. There's a third game.
Oh, okay.
There's Appalachia theme, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, pretty much, if you go in the woods alone.
Well, what was it? Missing 411. If you ever look into that crap, you're just like,
yep.
Like sometimes how these kids end up on like the top of a mountain, and it took like these people get helicopters to get them off of it. You're like, how the hell did this kid by himself climb up to like 1,200 feet above the the desert, and he's alive and untouched? You're like, what? Or it wanders through the swamp somehow and doesn't doesn't
get eaten by the alligators.
Oh, the third game was something in Demigorgon.
Like, and he was dry. He never got wet. So, sorry, go ahead.
What game is it's something in Demigorgons? Dungeons and Demigorgons?
Yeah, I think maybe. That sounds
well,
familiar.
One of the setting books is Jeffersontown, Kentucky. And it's a whole campaign book. Of course, that wouldn't be Appalachia, though, because Jeffersontown's south of Louisville, and that's more like swampy farmland.
That's another thing, too, is when you look at stories like, so Die Nerd, everything's rounded down, right? But you still get a feeling on some of the places that he describes that he's actually describing what he thinks that place would look like so far into the future, destroyed and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at authors who write good stories, they often are basing their stories on real places, but they've made changes. So now it's a fantasy world. Now it's this. And even in modules, like keep on the borderland.
Well, it's easier to...
Go look up the word involving the wilderness area around there. And you're going and look at the plants that are listed. They list the trees. They list the stuff. You can figure out exactly the biohabitat, that is being described. The locale in the U.S.
It's easier. It's easier
on the borderlands in the Balkans, near Romania.
It's easier to lift a place.
The star map.
It's easier to lift a place from existence and tweak it than it is to create something out of whole cloth.
But what Grandma was saying is 100% true for one of the best writers of all time, R.E. Howard,
Yeah,
whose entire damn world was just Earth.
Right.
Yeah.
And
But
he
when
intentionally
talks about
changed.
Stygia, it's pretty obvious that's Egypt.
Well, he even admits,
Yeah.
but he said at one point the reason that he got stuff close enough is if he made his own world, people wouldn't correct him for being incorrect for like historical and things like that. Like, no, that's right. He said, "Damn it, I'm going to create this place." Like, like you said, is Kitai, which is China. We all know it.
Right.
But that but it's close enough that we go, okay, it's not real China. It's an
Well,
imaginary China.
it's thousands of years ago, China.
Right.
Well,
Pre-China.
millions.
And anyway, I'm going to go, guys. You have a good
10,000
night.
years
Okay, whoa,
ago.
Holman. Before you go, because we're going to end the show in just a moment here. Anyways, next book we review over the next 2 weeks. I believe it's Owen's pick, is it not?
Yeah, it's the
Yep.
Fod and Grey Mouse, whatever the first one is.
It's Swords and Deviltry, and even though it's 3 separate like mini books inside the book, I really would like you guys to struggle through all 3. Otherwise, you only get half of the equation. The first story is
It's different with that because they're actual acts in one story.
Yeah, there's the one in the northern village, and then there's about the Gray Mouser and how he becomes called the Gray Mouser.
Yeah.
and then how they meet Ilmet and Lankmar.
How
So the
they
whole
meet,
book is
all of
Swords
that.
and Deviltry by Fritz Lieber, one of my all-time favorites. I'm so glad we're doing this one early on because we will refer back to it when we talk about things like Dungeons and Dragons because it was so influential.
Well, it wasn't just that. If you actually look at the old Dragon, he was inviting Fritz Lieber to these war game conventions, and that was a huge thing. Is because that's what a lot of these for us, all these people have been dead for our entire lives.
I know,
and yet,
such a shame, isn't it?
and yet in this case, this was someone that he was able to bring out and say, "Hey, look, I come here, come there." So anyway,
they were dead for our entire lives, not yours, Shadow.
Well,
he has. Yes, he has. He just
I still miss the fact that I didn't get to meet them in person.
Yes, yeah. No. All right. Well, you all take care. Have a good night.
You too, Owen.
Good
Thanks
night,
for
Owen.
Party on.
going up.
Yeah. So make vocabulary list. I mean, just start with something simple. Combat. How many?
You know what?
ways can you say
You're
parry?
absolutely correct, Grandma.
How many ways can say hit? Different.
I
Yeah,
did
Shadow
that
was
with the
basically-
story I wrote. I made a huge list of words I absolutely wanted to use, and then I didn't use them all, but I did, find it very helpful to break up my speech patterns and to not sound repetitive and to throw a little, they weren't words I don't normally use, just words that for certain things they were another way of saying another word. I was like earlier I was talking to TCG about using a different words for a word he was using, and trust me, bro, it's so handy. Just make a list of words that you're going to use or that you want to use, then break out that thesaurus.
You start with
look
10 or something.
Yeah,
But-
I've got to do the same. It also pays because you're writing with the two of us. To assign words to each character that they would prefer to use over more common parlances, and words that they absolutely wouldn't use based on
Right.
where they're from and
Give him
other
personality.
I haven't made a list, but I did kind of do that with the main character in my book, Senshi. He leans more towards Asian words and doesn't really speak Western, like the other characters. Like occasionally, one of them will slip a Southern word from the other characters, but you never hear any Southern words from Senshi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it gives him. Well, it gives him character, makes him stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Like I actually use the
Yeah.
word wench as the narrator, but he himself when he describes her, he uses the word geisha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right, and that's a good way to go. Culturally, and people know what you're talking about.
TCG, you can actually go and type in things like common Japanese words in the English language, words that us gaijin are familiar with, but don't realize.
Well, have you gotten to Have you gotten to the rule of the duel yet, Shadow?
No.
Oh, that's one of the chapters, and I actually have in Japanese a saying from the main character.
Okay. I hope you put an asterisk with a translation somewhere.
Oh, it's a simple
No,
translation.
go look it up.
Good. You know, and because you don't want to end up when we read, what was it, the one book that we all kind of agreed was terrible, that I
The
suggested.
spider.
Yeah, the Conan book, because I hadn't read it, so sorry, I'm still apologizing for that book.
No, it wasn't that bad.
One of the things I noticed when I was reading it was all the combat was like the same words over and over and over again. And that's unfortunate because it made the combat part
repetitive,
not very interesting.
And stale and forced.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
I tried to keep
Ari Howard here.
No, it was not Howard. It was
L. Sprague de Camp.
Yes.
Oh, because I was going to say Ari Howard is noted as the #1 best author at describing action.
Right. So we compared basically a Howard book.
Yeah, you got to do a punchy and to the
we
point.
did what, Kroll? We did Kroll the.
Yeah, that was his first character.
Right.
Well, one of his first characters.
And then we did a Conan book by another author.
Yeah, Elspeth came in later, and he tried to clean up Ari Howard. He felt like Ari Howard was maybe too coarse, or he
also didn't like Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Family friendly.
Yeah.
Not sure what he was trying to do.
He was an editor of one of the magazines originally. Yeah.
Amazing Stories or Amazing Fantasy or something like that.
Yeah, and he was coming from that mindset, and he just wasn't. It wasn't.
Kind of like how Darlitz saved Lovecraft, but at the same time he changed a lot of things.
Was the and Krishna stories, and that was one of the things that came through was the characters he created in that book were more interesting than our main character Conan. They basically.
Impossible.
Well, they were interesting. So he invested more.
His ability to get Conan's voice was.
Yeah, he just didn't nail Conan at all. And so I can say from reading some of his other books, like the Krishna series, those were fun to read. The book that we read, not as fun.
Well, I can't picture ever writing a Conan story. You know what I mean? Myself.
You create your own character and set them in your own.
Right. And that was probably his biggest downfall, was trying to, step into somebody else's character's shoes when, like you said, Grandma, he did his own stuff just fine. Well, all of us who enjoy reading and also writing, we need to do that. We need to focus and remember these are the NPCs as DMs that we create. They can become incredibly memorable. I had this one NPC that I had created. It was just, again, a nobody, a member of like 7 brothers who the party had hired, and for whatever reason he became incredibly popular with the group. And sure enough, one of the PCs did some bonehead thing that cost old Ben his life, and they still talked about him for years later and would look at that player, with the dagger eyes, remembering how our friend,
you murdered him.
Well, you got him killed, and everybody, had that moment of silence, and just, keeping it in there. It was like, no, Ben's dead. The
unimportant NPC became important to the group, and but that has to develop naturally, in my opinion, from playing.
Yeah, it's real hard to you
can't force it.
Create a sacrificial lamb without the players seeing that red shirt as he walks in.
Right.
You've got to let it happen organically, and when that happens, you'll have created something incredible.
Unfortunately for L. Sprague de Camp, he didn't have Conan standing behind him, telling him all of the stories.
That's right. He did
Yeah,
not.
James, I actually had.
Yeah.
Everybody here knows. I actually had a moment like that with my last story, and it's.
But I
you know
also-
you're onto something when that
Well,
happens.
that's what Howard said.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Which
I
is why
also,
he
it
wrote
happens.
100 stories in like 3 months.
reading what he wrote in one of my GURPS books, which is how I stumbled across him.
Yeah.
He really felt he was a better author than other people. Now, I don't think so. I think that's not true. But
Who thought that?
The camp. He, from what I could tell, is he really had editor arrogance because
Yes.
he really started to like change
Sorry, guys.
things and demand things.
Yes, he did.
The tones
So-
from what he was editing, the magazine he was at. Because I follow BookTube and one of the channels I watch. I don't remember what
I will
one was
disagree with
talking
him on
about.
that completely. That
Conan is
people-
about blood and tits. That's
Right.
why the story
Yeah.
fell. Yep.
Oh, I had a question.
Campbell
Are
was
we
the
gonna
same
do any
way,
of the Gore
though.
books?
Gore? Yeah, I
Gore.
just restarted the Gore
Oh my
series.
God, Gore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
just
I think
restarted
if you buy a Gore book, they put you on a list.
Well, I have all of them on my computer, so
Well, you're definitely on a list.
You're
then.
definitely flagged, dude.
also as a
Not
joke, I
correct.
started to write a series based on a review of the Gore books. Not the Gore books, a review of the Gore books.
Oh my God, we used to have
And you can
people
guess
in
how
our
bad the
area
review was.
that
Oh my
lark
gosh.
Gore. Like
What?
that was their lark, Gore. And
Yeah.
they fought
Yeah.
with like
Oh,
foam
yeah.
weapons and shit.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
the whole thing.
nuts because it was all about slaves and all this weird shit.
Yeah, it says like
and all of
Gore
us
is.
SBA guys are looking at these guys like,
It's a bondage and domination story, right? And the review
Yes.
was like leaning into how the whole story was that when it's not. There's other stuff going on, and so the story I was
what
writing
main
was
guy who
based
wrote
on
it? A professor who also
like an English professor.
Yeah, that's another
created
English
a
professor
cult,
gone
maybe?
wrong.
yeah. So the story I was writing was like based on the review, like how the complaints of the reviewer. I read this review like years ago, right? And you could ask Shadow. I was telling him about this on Wednesday's show, and it's like I had to give up halfway through because it was just getting too rapey.
Too bad. You're like, I can't
no, not too bad. Too rapey specifically.
Yeah.
It's like
Don't go full.
Yeah, don't
Which
don't
is
go
the
there.
whole point of Gore.
Yeah.
no, it's not. But
It's
most
not.
people think it is.
It's not.
Like I've read one book, and in that one book, it was like
There is a lot of
like, all the
like,
chicks had iron rings around their neck, and
Yep.
there was a lot of struggle cuddling and stuff like that. And
So
Yeah.
regular Saturday night. Gotcha.
it was like,
Yeah, no,
okay,
yeah, he was definitely he was making a statement for sure against the feminist movement at the time. I'm 100% sure on
guess.
that one.
I guess.
That's a bold statement.
I
Yes,
think
very
it was
bold.
more of a like the feminist movement actually wants that kind of shit.
Well, it is
if you-
true
you
that
pay attention to it.
statistically, the number one type of porn looked up by women involves them getting choked out.
Oh wow, really?
It seems to be the more feminist a woman is, the more into violent sexual encounters
Yep.
they are.
Number
No.
2 porn looked up by women is rape.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what you just said.
Oh.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
he-
women are
actual-
crazy.
It's weird.
Do you
No,
guys
okay.
remember? I mean, Grandma,
Big man.
surely you remember back in the 70s, all those romance novels, and they all went the same way.
Oh, I
She
never-
didn't want
okay.
him, but he forced
right,
himself on her, and then she loved him.
Okay, I'm going to tell you stuff. I have never read a romance novel in my life.
Oh my
I've
God.
written too.
I have avoided them like the plague. Now, I always thought too they were chick books, but
Mm.
I'm in error. I made a mental note at my job. We have our own library. It's back now that we can put books back. They threw out our books.
That's a
and
crime against humanity.
yeah, well, COVID, you know. ruined a lot of things. They threw out our puzzles. They threw out our books. They threw
But
out our
they
games.
think that COVID was going to stick to paper.
Yeah, and the chess
people
pieces.
thought that they
yeah.
did.
So,
Yeah, they did.
yeah, we used to have like an ongoing chess game going on, and yeah. Anyway,
Anyway.
I need a
books are
list of all the
back.
lists
Books are
Justin
back,
is on.
but in my years of working there, I discovered lots of men read romance novels.
Yeah. There are different different
I was
subgenres
surprised.
in the romance novels.
But
So,
basically, if
breaking
Fabio is
stereotypes.
on the cover,
Yeah.
you know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Fabio.
Yeah, if he's
Fabio's
on
for
the
the
cover,
chicks.
it's
2
gonna
chicks is for
be-
the dude.
it's going to be she don't like him, but then, he's dominant and what we would consider a bad thing happens, but then she realizes he's the love of her life.
There are subgenres in romance spelt with an E.
Yeah, I just never read. I'm not that kind of person. I the worst thing in a movie for me is if we got all this action going on, things are happening, danger is looming, and all of a sudden, it's like hitting a brick wall for me.
Well, it's a
Stop
different
the
kind of
train.
action.
We must have the love-making scene from nowhere.
Nah, that's bad writing. It's got to come from somewhere.
Well, that's just R.R. Martin being obsessed with wieners. If you look up South Park, they did like a whole series on R.R. Martin's obsession with wieners.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like doing like they're pretending like they're characters in Game of Thrones. And
Okay.
Butters does not bitch the whole show because Eric's making Butters watch the show. And Butters is just like, so far, I think the show's just about floppy wieners. And Cartman's like, what? He says, it's like every show for no reason. There's just wieners in the show.
Yeah. For no reason, yeah.
And he's like, there's no reason for it. And where are the dragons? I keep waiting for the dragons.
I mean, there are literally scenes in
Unless dragon is
in
a euphemism
shows
for
and movies.
wieners.
I have looked at
Release the-
my husband.
That's
and
what
said,
I
"If
call
you
my
ever
wiener,
Did this in
the
real
dragon."
life, like this situation, and then
Hey, Raven, welcome to the show. Just as we're about to end,
Yeah.
perfect timing as always.
Raven,
Yeah, Raven.
hey,
Hey, get it right.
did you read the books, Raven?
No, she
No.
did not.
Oh, Raven, it's good.
Yeah, I'm gonna find a way to get her a copy of it so that next time around she can be ready for it.
I mean, at the end of the day, though, Vance
You have
was
the audiobooks in
pretty
the
much
chat.
awesome.
Yeah, he
And
keeps up with some great cultures in the
that
sci-fi
were
stuff.
very unique for well, he was writing this shit back in like the 50s and 60s, man.
Mhm.
Yeah, and his sci-fi stuff with all the different cultures and stuff. Those are gems. Tons of inspiration there to borrow.
I
in
mean,
different ways.
I've always been more of a Conan guy, but Vance is good. Lieber's good too. Lieber, when you guys read the Lieber books, if you haven't already, it's literally like reading a D&D adventure.
Well, we're doing it next week, the first one.
Raven,
Yeah, I've already read them all.
2 weeks from now, but yeah.
Yeah. Dude.
Sorry to hear that, Raven.
What happened to Raven? Did she lose
She's
another
stranded
cat?
in
She's
Seattle.
escaped from Seattle.
Oh, man.
That sounds like a horror movie in itself.
If you see anyone with purple hair, shoot them.
Yeah, don't go to Portland.
I've heard there's good donut nuts in Seattle, though.
No, there's lots of
they're
nuts
made
in
by
Seattle.
hipsters, though, so they probably got weed in them or something.
The one Dustin had bacon on them.
Raven, if you see a guy with
bacon.
dreadlocks offer you anything, do not take it.
Yeah, be suspicious of free chocolate chip cookies and brownies too.
I mean, unless you got nothing else to do for the next 24 hours.
Are you really into Rohypnol? If you really like books with Fabio on the cover.
Yeah, that could be your thing.
Oh, you had some good clam chowder? Well, okay, yeah, they do have good seafood up there. Yes.
I didn't know there was such a thing, but okay.
That's what, good seafood?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You gotta live by the ocean.
Hey,
I
I eat the cockroaches of the sea, and they are delicious.
Well, Shadow doesn't live by the ocean. He lives out in the middle of the desert. He lives on road runners and coyote meat,
He lives right off of Highway 101 or
Jerky
whatever.
lizard.
right?
That's the one that
Again.
follows the shoreline, bro.
And
Oh,
the
you
two
got-
large
yeah,
shots of Jameson didn't hurt
Jameson.
either.
You know.
She's living the good life.
I think that's I think the term "friendly skies" is probably going to be appropriate in her near future, provided they don't wear off. So,
was Raven up in Washington State looking for Bigfoots?
Oh yes,
Probably.
yes.
squatchy. Anything
Was
squatchy?
she up there
happen?
looking for some same squatches? As Bubbles would say.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So before we close out for tonight, this was a lot of fun, guys. Last question: would you recommend The Dying Earth to friends,
Yes.
gamers?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's a foundational book for fantasy role playing games.
Well, just for fantasy, period. It's a good story.
Yeah.
It's fun.
To understand what you see in the history of the genre.
Well, if you play D&D,
Yeah.
it shows you where Gygax got the entire spell system from.
Shows
Like
you
what-
how the mages are supposed to be played, damn it.
You know?
Yeah, as freaking psychopath,
Scientists.
amoral, mad scientists.
Yeah.
You know, his character, Gord the Thief, I have all the books, and two of them he signed for me. Well, not for me, for my friend. Gord the Thief is kind of an idiot and also not a good guy.
Right.
Right.
You know, he's kind of like a little amoral himself.
TCG, how about you? Would you
I would
recommend it?
definitely recommend this to anybody who I think would read it. Once again, we fall into the category of I don't think anybody I know would read it. But yeah, I would recommend it.
Okay, and quick follow up question before we go, because I'm curious, because we've read some books that I really wanted to like with the Cull book. I really wanted to go and deep dive and finish that book off. I didn't get to. Are you guys going to finish the entirety of the first book, or are you going to wait till next time around? Can you wait to get back into it? What's the deal with that?
We can pick more from stories from the books we've done. Like I'm gonna hit Cull next pick I have if you want.
Okay.
Unless you want me to pick something else.
No, I want everybody to pick what they want to pick.
Yeah,
And if we
I
go
don't
back and
care,
forth-
but like,
Just
Sadly, I have never liked Cull.
really.
it was technically on the list, and since it was
Yeah, I
before
know,
Conan in the story,
I'm just saying, I love Conan. I collect all the Conan shit. Conan has always been one of my favorite characters. I've never liked Cull. I don't know. He's too good.
Raven,
Yeah.
enjoy your
He's
evening.
like,
yeah,
Indeed,
party on Raven. I literally only picked it because he's the precursor, like chronologically, he's technically in the same world as Conan as well.
yeah, 10,000 years before Conan.
We'll have to do a proper Conan story
Yeah,
now that we did like one of the knockoff stories.
I would
you should have picked. You should have picked that for your pick.
Well,
Thieves in the House.
someone
That's a
recycled.
great Conan story. That's one where they break into
I
the
just had no
wizard's
idea it
tower.
would be that much of a flat of a book, and I just was like, "What was
We're
it?"
gonna have that happen.
James, what happened?
No idea.
You got
Not
me,
sure.
Raven.
I for one, am gonna finish up the rest of this book. I only got 2 of the short stories left, but I remember.
I expect the rest of them to be done on the show, though.
Oh yeah,
we'll do
no,
them.
just
yeah.
just as a as a form of entertainment, I'm going to finish listening to the rest of the audiobook, because I got to a certain point, and even before I started reading this, I was like, oh yeah, I remember why I liked this so much, and it revolved around certain things, and now I'm at a certain point, and I'm like, yeah, I got to get to the end of this one.
I will say
I want
this.
to talk about Theodans.
That's a good pick Doc made.
Yeah, Black River.
Beyond the Black River, where Conan's out there fighting the Picts.
That's the scenario I played with Crafty Matt Craft when he ran me and some other guys
It's
through
the scenario in the back of the core book.
Right, and I didn't own it. We played it. I had a blast. He's a great GM. I wish
You're running around all the settlements trying to save the settlers while a massive horde of picks are just running amok.
I actually killed the great jaguar beast. You know that was epic. I lopped his freaking head right the hell off.
Yeah, that's a great story. I haven't found any
Raven, I believe you said you were looking for squatches.
In my area, I don't think we got a lot of Sasquatches. We got more goblins and dogmen and crazy inbred cultists.
So Floridians.
Well, you aren't too far.
No, I'm talking up
far from the.
You're in Florida now, though, so they'll just be.
I
Floridians.
might live in Florida, but I'll never be a Floridian.
No, the cultists, the inbred cultists, they're Floridians.
Oh well, no, I'm talking the holler folk. You know,
have you not heard of Florida, man?
Degenerated families that live way down in the hills and summon Pumpkinhead and shit like that.
Oh, and technically, there is something you have to worry about, James, which is the skunk man or something like that. It's supposed to be a Sasquatch skunk ape. Yeah, it absolutely stinks.
Yeah, skunk apes. Honestly, I've actually know a couple of guys who say they've seen them. And every guy who said they've seen it said it just looks like an orangutan. Like when it doesn't look special, it just looks like a 5 foot tall orangutan running through the brush. And they smell.
That's not a big surprise, honestly. I truly believe Bigfoot exists, but unlike Raven, I believe that they are just a subspecies of ape.
Or maybe some kind of hominid that survived to this point.
Or even more believable. Just an escape.
I was being very vague when I said ape, okay?
Well, when I say hominid, I mean like in the human list. Like,
okay, fair.
If you want to get mystical, you could talk about Nephilim or whatever. Or it could just be like a habilis or a Neanderthal that's still kicking. But every guy I've ever heard tell of seeing skunk ape has said that it looks like an orangutan. Like just there's nothing special about it. It's just a stinky orangutan that runs around in the swamp. Mm-hmm. And okay. I mean, I'd be more worried about the 14-foot alligator that might take you down than that damn swamp ape.
Well, orangutans aren't as violent as chimpanzees, but they still have the ability to rip your arms out if they feel like it.
I'd be more worried about those capuchin monkeys that can give you that version of herpes that will kill you.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
Because there's a ton of those down in Florida.
Yeah, the release to the escaped monkeys.
Oh, yeah. You got to watch out for those guys.
Now, I wanted to say something about the audiobook for the story. I got the one off of Audible, and the guy that reads the stories off of the YouTube channel, you were saying, Shadow, that he stops and pauses and interjects on some stupid things because he's not editing, right?
Right.
No.
He still does a better job, like, expressing the stories than the actual paid professional.
Yeah, and
you know, it's funny. I actually invited that guy to the show, and I never heard back from him.
Reach out again, but we don't know what's going on with him either. You know.
Yeah.
Some people do stuff on YouTube and then they disappear. And
yeah.
Raven, every time I've been told of anybody that I know seeing a skunk ape, they've always been about 5 or 6 feet tall.
Yeah, there's this thing called exaggeration.
They're just not that big.
Yeah, see,
if they even exist at all, but they're probably just some kind of freaking. They could literally just.
Well, it's not just exaggeration. They've actually proven that when a human is afraid, proportions tend to be enlarged.
Right, and I got a perfect real life example from.
Yeah, like those 4 foot tall chihuahuas.
Years ago, a guy's husky got his house got robbed, and his friendly husky ended up on the street. Okay, husky's friendly, husky's hungry. Husky found a deer that had been roadkilled near the river, but on a residential area, and so husky was eating on the deer. People are out in the evening. They see the husky eating the deer. Instead of identifying it as a husky, they identified it as a vicious wolf in Carmichael, California.
Well,
And this then led to the Great Wolf Hunt, which was a poor husky running away from the sheriff's department because for some reason they did not call anybody who knew anything about animals, and them gunning down a husky that did everything in its possible to run away from them under the grounds that it was a vicious wolf. Had the wolf actually been in California, they would have shot a wolf for the first time relocating to the valley in like forever. So
Sad. There's no reason to shoot.
Right. But see, in the minds of everybody involved in the moment, it was a big.
It's not like it was a little kid.
Giant.
Right, is
when you watch
the deer carcass. Who gives a shit?
When you watch the citizens explain how big this it was an average size husky, but when they describe it, they're describing something bigger than a Great Dane.
I think I remember that. What they basically described was what you see in the movie Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Yes,
by its size and proportion and design of its body. It's like, what the fuck? Did you see a werewolf or something?
You're right. Right. I don't know how much alcohol was involved.
Well, that's what I was asking about. I was going to ask about the
it's California.
The skunk man.
Dancer.
The skunk apes that James's friends saw. How many of them were moonshine
everything in his
drinkers?
power to get away from them, showed no aggression towards people, and shot it thinking it was a wolf themselves, and they should have been able to identify the different. You know what I'm saying? Huskies don't really look like wolves.
Well, this is why your government has agencies.
My problem is why would you shoot it?
Well, yeah, why would you? I mean, that's why I call it the Great Wolf Hunt of Carmichael.
We have wolves here in Florida. They're kind of smaller red wolves. No one shoots them. I mean, why would you? They don't do anything.
Right.
They just hang out, you know?
But it was a full-on panic. A whole thing. And
you California.
Florida red wolf.
Well, I know what a wolf looks like. You know, I don't know why.
I know what a husky looks like too. It's like,
right. They look quite different.
Yeah. Well, for one thing, an actual real like gray wolf, those things are huge. But typically, unless they're starving to death or something, they're not going to bother you. They might eat.
What people fail to realize is the greatest majority of predators fear humans.
Right.
Right. Well, we're the apex.
Rightly, they should.
And a wild animal, a wolf doesn't try to get into a building to get away from people. It's trying to get it. You know, that's a dog. Okay, maybe the people here are friendly and will save me from these crazy people.
It's like, that is so sad. That makes me feel bad.
Yeah, and I feel really bad for the guy, you know, his pets, you know, got robbed. His dog got shot and killed because everybody had a panic attack and misidentified an animal in the panic, in the adrenaline rush, in the thrill of the hunt.
They didn't even try to capture it. This is why your country has an EPA.
Well, it's why we also have animal control and
no. I'm going with the absurdist overreach.
Well, we have park rangers. You know, they could have called the rangers. I mean, and you know, we have fish and game. I mean,
they could have called the fire department. Fire department would have been like, "That's a husky."
Yeah.
What the hell are you people doing? Never call the cops. They love sheep dogs, man.
No. I mean, most of them don't. Most of them love dogs, but these guys, I don't know.
Every time you turn around, you got some sheriff shooting somebody's freaking little dog.
Yeah. So.
Hell, they could have just called the K9 unit, you know, and looked at the comparison. K9 dog? Oh, it's just a dog.
Yeah, they could have asked one of the K9 units, hey, is this a wolf?
I think it was like Grandma said, it was more the thrill of the hunt than necessarily trigger happy. Trigger happy is usually.
They were all on adrenaline rushes at that point, and so poor decisions were made.
I'm just saying something because down here we had a real problem for a long time with these cops coming to people's house, and if there was a dog there, they'd just shoot it. And
bad department policy.
Right. And it did not work out well for the police department because people were like, getting really upset about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
shot my dog for what reason?
Yeah.
I saw this one case.
If somebody came into my backyard and killed my little Pomeranian, I'm going to prison.
Right.
I saw this one case where this this guy.
What it is.
I saw this one case where this guy was being arrested, and he wanted to put his dog in his car and call someone to pick the dog up, and the cop just shot the dog.
Yeah,
that's
they're,
necessary.
And the dog was
said,
like
we have
sitting
animal
calmly
control.
and
Yeah.
Well,
every county and city has animal control in some shape or form.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
They can come get it. I understand if like the dog is running loose next to its owner. And,
no, it was on a leash next to him, right?
Right, but if the dog is in control.
Yeah, how did that guy not lose his job and pension for that?
Fucking rigged system and that kind of thing. But
well, on a more pleasant subject, I'm thinking about it because I'm about ready to use it. Anybody here use textured mud paints or something like that?
Textured mud.
Yeah, paints. They have like the wet earth and.
That you put on
I haven't tried those yet. Have you?
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Are we talking about that?
Yes. I discovered a really nice recipe online.
Ooh.
That's funny. I just add sand to my paint. If I'm going to do that, I just add some sand and I'm good.
They do different effects because it's actually like chunks of acrylic base in those, so they blend easier. If you want, if you want it to look like there's like dried mud on the side of your vehicle or whatever.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
Actually, any of you guys use these?
For Central Europe.
Any of you guys use these?
So Poland,
pastels. So basically, that stuff that James has is like that mixed into a tub of paint.
Are those like pastel pencils?
No, they're like eyeshadow.
Yeah.
Like more like eyeshadow.
Yeah. The thing Shadow showed is like eyeshadow, but it's acrylic paint instead of whatever binder they use for eyeshadow.
Because I've used graphite pencils over metal to get some looks before, and I've used chalk.
Yeah, I've heard of
chalk pastels. I have a tray of chalk pastels that I use, but the thing with the pastels is when you use them, every time you finish a layer, you've got to seal it. You've got to put something on top of it right away before you move on to the next stuff.
Those powders are kind of that way too.
Yeah.
Our
haven't
friend
used them for that yet.
Justin, our friend Armstrong uses crushed pastels and does.
I think he uses the exact same box I do. It's a yellow one with some stripes across it. You just buy the box and then you scrape it off into a powder when you need it.
I've taken pine wood shavings and put them in food coloring and dyed them, dried them, and then ground them up in an old coffee maker to make powder.
I still need to get one of those.
Yeah, just go to Goodwill or someplace and hunt.
Yeah.
Where,
Well, the Tamiya powders are really.
And then clearly market, so you don't accidentally use it for food.
Right.
Like that.
It's in a crate right now, but I've done that in the past, and it comes out good for like.
Can't text and drink.
Stuff.
Can't text.
Yeah, I actually recently added to like James's Discord 50 presents that aren't more models for model makers or model painters, and one of them is a coffee grinder.
Yeah, coffee grinder for grinding things.
Just for the reason you said, Grandma.
I go through about 12 or more of these a month.
What is that?
Super glue.
Super glue.
I tell you, buy it like this. $50 from AliExpress, you get like 300, 400.
Yeah, I just got some Millie Putty delivered,
tubes, right?
Some new primer.
For like 3 packs of those, you get thousands of these.
Wow.
Well, how much does one of those little glue things cost? So like $10, $15?
I think I paid
$3.50.
$9 for 3.
Okay, yeah. So those are the moderate ones. The good ones can go up to like $25 a bottle
Yeah.
for like the
That's it.
and like I said,
Like this one was $13.
yeah, and you run the risk of like it drying because you didn't close it properly one time.
Yeah, that's why I
Right.
like the little ones.
Yeah.
Who's it? Loctite. You get 2 of these little bottles for I think it's like $3.50, and
Yeah.
they don't dry out until you pierce the label. You know the
Same here.
seal. You know,
I
and then
swear by. Sorry.
go for it.
These ones.
I swear by Gorilla Gel Super Glue.
Really,
Because
I hate that stuff. Really,
I'm able to control it like an undiluted hate, so I can get it exactly where I want it with no issues.
I know Gorilla Glue is
Here's
hit
your
and miss
problem,
with me,
Shadow.
man.
You gotta get the right type. There's so
Ever
many types.
use the nozzle. Just pretend the nozzle doesn't exist. Use toothpicks to pull out the glue.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Most people put the Gorilla Glue on a little
Palette.
piece of cardboard and then
I
use it.
3D printed
Okay.
a ton of these.
Sweet.
Well, those are cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a moon base. They got roofs too.
Nice.
And you can pick which, like if you want solar panels or some other
A
kind
radar
of.
dish or something.
Yeah, I need to get a new
put them
vat
all
for my
together and
3D
then
printer.
start the closet. Because that's what I do.
Sorry to hear that,
My
Raven.
Martian sky galleon's right there. I'll probably never use it, but it's cool looking.
Wheel broke off your luggage. Oh, new luggage time.
But yeah, here's one with 3, so that
baking soda and super glue.
Yeah, baking soda and super glue will bond about anything.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you go on AliExpress and just like obviously you got some wait time for it to show up, but they send you a bag full of these things. You can get them in quantities as low as 20 and as high as like 500 or something like that.
Okay.
Wow.
Nice, man. Thank you for the info.
Yeah.
And obviously, if this dries out because you used it once,
you throw it away.
Who the fuck cares?
Yeah, I did that with brushes. People were asking me what kind of brushes I bought, and I was like, they're called like One Good Happy Dill. And you get like 50 of them for like $4 or something.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Here's your
it's a number one round brush. You use it one time you're like, who cares?
Here's the thing, Raven. You have too much expectation. They should have never used the word gorilla. They should have used the word monkey glue. That's about how strong it is.
They should have called it skunkate glue.
Yeah, you know, I was just talking to somebody about this. Remember the old days, the old super glue commercial where the guy would glue his hard hat and then it would support his whole freaking weight?
That was never true.
I know, the lying bastards.
Now,
I mean,
there
look
are
at-
glue products that will do that, but not anything in the cyanoacrylate family.
Right.
No, that seems like something that would be more of like a 2-part epoxy kind of setup.
Yeah, and even then you're going to hold it for like 6 hours, you know, with clamps.
It's
You know what
called
I mean?
goblin glue in the fantasy world.
Or Kentucky. You have to
Hey,
remember,
we've
in
got
Hellier
100
County, we got our Hellier, we got our goblins.
Congratulations, Raven. Your ha 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 was comment 100.
Yay!
Nice.
Yay.
Hey, what's up, Derek?
Hey, Woo
Two
Raiders.
Riders. Woo!
We are unfortunately getting ready to say goodbye, good sir.
Yes, we are. We
were
went a
talking
little over.
crafting. At this point.
That's okay. That's okay. You know, because this is the book club. It's not, you know, a college course or anything like that. We're gonna goof off. We're gonna get distracted. As Justin often points out, it took us 2 hours to go through a 17-page story. So
10-page story.
Hey, this is a better
The
book
first
club than an Oprah's book club.
well, thank you, Grandma.
Actually-
Thank you. And there's no children involved.
Better
So
books. Better books.
I've learned some neat stuff today.
About
So
what?
it's been good.
You learn things.
Yeah.
Well, you know, James.
Like
If you want to
Blue-
read, Fritz Lieber and join us in 2 weeks,
I've
we're
already
always
read everything he ever wrote,
Yeah, I
know,
should read it again though.
including the one that's sci-fi where the main character's like a German pilot from World War II
oh really?
and got
Oh,
stuck
nice.
through time.
Raven, you won the no prize. It'll be in the mail shortly.
It's underneath your seat.
It's-
Yeah. Fritz Lieber actually wrote
don't
a
look under
story
your seat.
like a
You're
sci-fi
at a Seattle airport, for Christ's sake. You'll probably find a bomb.
where like this team of people are out doing sci-fi stuff.
Or
in
some
the future.
cocaine.
One of them was like a World War II fighter ace in the
Look at her hopes up.
Luftwaffe.
Don't do drugs, Raven.
So
Drugs are bad.
okay.
Okay.
I didn't read the last book of the Fritz Lieber series because I loved it so much that I didn't want it to end. As a matter of fact, do I have it here?
Are you talking about the one where they sell across the world to the other continent?
I think so. The Curse of the Smalls and the Stars is in it.
Yeah.
Where, yeah.
Well, we'll probably hit it when we get around to it.
Yeah. In 2028.
In
2038.
What's funny is the wizards that he talks to are actual aliens.
Yep. Oh yeah, look at the old pictures in the Deities and Demigods book. They had tentacles and eye stalks.
Niglobble of the eyeless face and something else with the 10 eyes.
Did you read Gore?
Kilba.
Did you read Gore, James?
I have only ever interacted with the LARPers and saw one movie.
The movie, yeah.
And the LARPers made me very uncomfortable.
You should read the book.
I read
Read
the book because it had
Tarnsman.
bad press, so I immediately got curious and had to read the book.
The LARPers were like
so-
leading women around on chains and stuff. And apparently,
That's
if
all
you put your
freaking
iron
weird.
ring on a woman,
No.
you own her.
There's a lot of domination play,
And she's
in
got
that
to
book.
do what you say or else.
So
Which I'm not necessarily 100% opposed to. I'm just saying it was weird.
Grandma, you read it. What are the high priests? The
Oh God, when I read Gore, like forever ago. I mean, we're talking. I read it probably 15 years ago.
yeah.
I remember certain things about it, like
Okay.
there was the whole dominance, slavery thing. I remember that they had clothing. The clothing was patterned and colored in that mint stuff. I remember that the cities or the towns, they had a special stone that if you took possession of that and wore it, then you owned the
town.
That was a big deal. I remember that.
Yeah.
And I just remember reading it and going, yeah, I see why it has some bad press here. Yeah, he's definitely reacting to the movements of the time period. And I could also see how if you were inclined a certain way, it would be your book to then go out and LARP. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you right now, there were a ton of female LARPers that were into that shit.
Well,
Yeah.
So maybe he might have been right about what he was trying to say. Because it's not like it was a sausage fest. There were a ton of chicks running around wearing iron rings.
Yeah, no. I mean, but it was
Awesome,
definitely
Raven. Enjoy.
it definitely was a swords and fantasy novel. Stop.
It was sword fantasy erotica, but didn't actually go that far into erotica. No, I was just wondering because I'm only on chapter 2, the first book on this week, and I don't remember anything from the last time I read it. And I was just wondering what the high priests that control the world, if they were aliens or not. Couldn't remember.
Oh, if they were aliens or not, they might have been. I mean,
Yeah.
because they were kind of different, and gosh, I remember the way that book starts. Like he's in a pickup truck, like the first book.
Yeah,
Something like that. Yeah, right. And a ring.
He tricked the school into giving him a job, and he's telling the audience about it.
Yeah.
And then he borrowed some camping gear from the gym teacher. And
Makes you wonder if that wasn't like a confession. Every professor out there
yeah,
hiring me.
his main character from the first book is a definite self-insert.
Yeah, his main character.
Yeah, don't do that either.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, but that was.
Well, you can just don't make it your main character.
Yeah. And I remember I didn't like the beginning of the book to explain how he got to where he got, as well as I liked what Edgar Rice Burroughs did, and what Edgar Rice Burroughs did was kind of odd for the Mars stories too. But
Barson. It felt like he just ripped that off as a justification to get his Esokai or whatever the fuck they call that story started.
Yeah. I mean, it was.
James, you watch anime. What's that thing where you got?
Could you imagine Gore as an anime series?
I think I've seen it already.
Yeah, it's called Legend of the
the best way to do it, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
No. You got to get like a really high budget and just make it a porno.
Yeah, no, don't even pornos.
Dollars to Donuts, it already exists.
Yeah, probably.
No.
Well, I mean, Deathstalker, right?
Deathstalker.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah. Like within the first 15 minutes, he tries to struggle cuddle a random chick. It's pretty crazy. I mean, he saves her from a bunch of mutant guys that are trying to do bad things to her. But then he immediately turns around and starts trying to do it too.
Bad. Yeah, right.
So it's all like, wait, what?
I only saved you because I wanted to go first.
Right. What's going on here?
Raw.
Damn.
And basically, you need to drink with me sometime. Let's discuss this Sasquatch.
Sasquatch are fun, man. They're
what I know about them. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a fun. Sasquatch are always fun to talk about.
Yep.
Also,
I won't believe none of it until I get one in my sights and I bag it, strap it to the hood of my truck, and drive it through the center of town.
I said they're fun to talk about. I didn't say what I believed or didn't believe.
or what was a man and his dog, or a boy and his dog?
Oh, boy and his dog. Yeah, that's with the psychic dog. The dog that can,
you get the same kind of
thing.
Yeah. That's another.
The dog's always talking smack to him.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the one movie where the women were running everything, and they had the men all being the dominated and enslaved. And
Hell Comes to Frogtown?
I don't know, because they had a guy who this is one I saw when I was way young. I just remember the guy ends up starting a rebellion, and he rides a horse, and he's got like the American flag over. They uses that as like the saddle blanket on the horse. Yeah, it was those bad B-rated films.
Well, that's definitely not Zardoz.
No, that's not Zardoz. Zardoz has got that big float in the head thing.
Zardoz is one of the best sci-fis ever made.
Yeah. I wouldn't go that far, but it is fun. I want that head.
Well, the thing with Zardoz is it's like what they're trying to say in the movie is actually really deep shit. Because they're talking about eugenics, they're talking about immortality, they're talking about AI.
Right. But all it just comes off so weird.
But at the end of the day, all people think about is Sean Connery running around in red banana with a weapon. You know? So people were so obsessed with Sean Connery and his banana hammock that they don't stop and actually think about.
There was like way more going on in that.
What type of gun did he have again?
A Webley.
Webley. Yeah.
Like a World War II British weapon.
Yeah, with the lanyard ring and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys who went around
it's a revolver, but apparently you cock it. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, highly inefficient. But with that, folks, I'm going to bid you all a good night. I have got some things I got to take care of in preparation for tomorrow. Thanks everybody for playing along and sticking around. And for those of you who left early, sorry. We tend to ramble, so
Yeah.
we will
Yeah.
see you guys next week for regular Paint and Chill stream. And I'm not sure what the topic is for the sci-fi chat, but we'll keep you guys posted. Until then, folks, have a great evening and happy trails.
Happy
Also,
trails.
tomorrow writing talk on my channel.
Absolutely wouldn't miss it for the world. I put
Week
it.
2
I
of Big
put
Stuff
in,
and Robots.
Yep, I've already got about 3 pages done on that story.
I haven't even thought of it yet.
Yeah, I sent you know what? I'll send you what I got so far before the show.
Yeah.
I sent it off to Mac, and I'll probably put in another hour or two writing before I hit the hay. But
Yeah,
I'm enjoying
I'm
it.
probably going to spend the night doing that. I'm working on a different project. It's got me consumed right now.
Oh, okay. And of
Yeah.
course I got to finish TCG's short story as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, if you could finish it for tomorrow's show, you'll have a little bit to discuss about with giant robots because it does.
Yeah,
have
yeah,
a giant robot in it.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I'll probably start with that and then move
TCG,
on.
did you write
Yeah.
yours in Google Docs?
No, that's why I didn't use the. That's why I didn't give you a document because I've been told unless you pay for the sub because mine is paid. You
No,
can't access the document.
no. Google Docs is free, bro.
And it's awesome.
It just open up Google and
I
in
could
the-
not find it, like literally to save my life. I looked on
Okay.
Google. I literally looked up Google Docs
I'm-
and it said this program does not exist. That's what my computer told me.
I'm going to share my screen, Shadow.
Okay.
Uh,
I think it's Google Docs. I have the problem with them.
okay. Do you
Pat.
see this?
Oh, duh. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Look.
Okay. You see my mouse right here?
Yeah.
Click on that and look for this logo. It won't be at the top because you can move these around. But It just says Docs and it's this blue page. You click on
It has a lot of neat
and
functions. It lets you
it's like
uh,
everything you
allow
wrote.
people to come in and work on it with you, and you can share it easier, and it's very, very intuitive.
Yeah.
And
I have to
that's
check
coming
that
from the
before I
Luddite
give up mine
itself.
because I got used to it and it has a lot of features. I've discovered if I figure out how to use them, I could actually make a character sheet with the one I've got currently.
Yeah, you can do that with Google Docs.
And I really like the not just the spell check, but the grammar check is phenomenal. It corrects
Yeah.
mistakes I didn't even realize I made, and I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you.
And it's free, and you can just keep creating more documents by hitting the multicolored plus at the bottom.
Okay.
Or the new document square up at the upper left-hand corner.
No, I didn't know there was one up there.
So, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. Party on, everyone.
Did
We'll
you
talk
want to say
tomorrow.
one
though.
last thing?
So yeah.
I was just going to say you could share things and ask for opinions.
Yep. Alrighty.